got a slip in your palm and a hole in your chest. Black coffee on the felt, man, you look like a mess. 3-team parlay turned to dust in your head. Now you stare at the chips like they made you this man. But don't you go quiet, don't you fade from the floor. Your name still means something to somebody for sure. Put the glass down, baby. Look at me now. Hold on, hold on. Not tonight, not now. Hold on. Let me pull you out. That bell bites hard, but it don't get the crown.
What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you with Toadstool Sports. It is Wednesday, June 3rd. I'm not happy. 1-2 on the show yesterday. Definitely could have at least been 2-1. Toronto was down by 1. It was a tied game. Pretty close to the 5th inning. They were down 3-2. They wound up losing the game outright as well, 4-3. The under in Giants-Milwaukee. Absolutely should have gotten there. The first 5 got there. I think we might have to downgrade the Giants bullpen way more. I don't know what else that I have to say about that. First 5 under hit, but we had the full game under, and it was looking pretty good. It was 4-1 in the 8th inning. Oh, but yeah, then the teams are going to just combine for 6 fucking runs in the 8th inning. Yeah, okay. Just get out of here with that shit. And then the only play that won was the one that the market didn't agree with. The A's first 5 was a winner, and the full game was a winner. 2-1, same score, I'm pretty sure. Gage jump got us there in that one. I have nothing really to say about that otherwise. We need to get back on track here. This is bad, really bad. I mean, this record over the last 60 days is good. It was a good run. We're on the downswing right now. We need to somehow turn it around. I hate the board today. I absolutely despise it. I'm going to try to just get through it. I don't know what else I have to say. Dirty Sock, what's up? Why would you even listen to me? Why would anybody listen to me right now? Don't pay attention to anything I have to say here. Seriously, do not. Baseball, I hate this baseball board. Absolutely hate it. Miami at Washington is the first game. Washington is trying to avoid being swept by Miami here. I don't know. Wait, does Miami I don't know. I forget. I looked at this earlier today. Who is this team playing next? Because you got to see if Miami has a look-ahead spot. They're playing Tampa next, so I guess maybe that's their American League geographic rival. So the situation favors Washington here because they're going to be a little bit extra motivated. Try to avoid the sweep. Washington is terrible at home, though. So right away, I'm like, do you really want to back Washington here? And they're going up against Miami's best pitcher, too. So, yeah, you probably don't actually want to do that, even though the situation does back it. Miami used 5 relief pitchers yesterday, although they have the better bullpen. Washington only used 2, which evens out the bullpens a little bit, but Miami's ranked 4th in bullpen whip. Washington is 23rd. Washington has the better offense, number 4, tied in 4th with Pittsburgh now. Miami is 19th. Max Meyer is pitching for Miami, though. I don't really think I would want to jump in and fade this guy. He's got a 2.97 ERA, 1.1 whip. There are some indicators that you might be able to fade him here, though. He's got a 4.78 road ERA, so he's not as good on the road. He was not great in his last outing against the Mets, but I'd be more inclined to give him a pass for that because it was his second straight start against the Mets. So they had just seen him, and he dominated them. 1 hit, 7 innings in the first of the 2. So they obviously adjusted, and they hit him better in the next game, but he still got unlucky in that game. He gave up 5 earned runs on 6 hits, 3 walks. His walk number you'd like to see be a little bit lower, but his strikeout rate's really high. His hit rate is also low, and that was the case over the last month as well. And prior to that Mets loss, Miami had won his previous 5 starts. So there are some indicators, yeah, I mean, I guess you could make the argument he's falling out of form a little bit here. I really don't think so, though. I just think that was a bad setup for him, having to face the Mets twice in a row. They made the adjustments, but perhaps the better indicator why maybe he is fadeable here is that Washington has done well against him. 22 at-bats, 4 strikeouts, 1 walk, 364 average, 1,073 OPS. You might be able to fade him looking at those numbers and the fact that he's not as good on the road. But if you're going to back Washington, you also have to back Andrew Alvarez, who he's been okay. He's been in and out of Washington's starting rotation over the last couple of years. He's been out of the bullpen this year. 4.02 ERA, 1.28 WHIP. He hasn't pitched that much, though. He's only made 4 appearances this year. None of them have gone past 4 1/3 innings. And I think he got hurt, I guess, after April. I don't know. He pitched pretty well against the Giants in one appearance in April, and then it looks like he missed a month. I don't know if he got sent to the minors or if he was injured. No idea. Came back, and he's worked out of the bullpen a few times in the month of May, but they've had him kind of on a starter's schedule, but he just doesn't go deep into games. So I think you're looking at Washington probably using a lot of their bullpen here. So there's no way I'd really want to back Washington here. I just can't do it, even though the situation might indicate that way. Meyer has a few negatives that we see there, but 62% of tickets, 67% of the cash on Miami. Washington is a very, very slight underdog. They're at small minus money here. So the odds makers are telling you they do think this is kind of a toss-up game here, even though you're looking at Miami's best starting pitcher here. I'm not going to do anything with this game, but yeah, that is the setup with it. You can do what you want with it. The total's 8.5. I don't have a great read on what to do with that game. I mean, I basically just told you the situation does line up on Washington, but I think there are just way too many negatives in the matchup to actually do it. Gerald, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. Well, I have to talk about it. It's the main sport that's going on right now. Kyle, what's up? Dirty Sock, yeah, well, that's good. Well, I have not made that much money off of my own opinions, so I just haven't been betting large enough amounts on these things to do it. Detroit at Tampa Bay. This, I believe, is the end of this series. Tampa Bay is on the verge of getting swept, believe it or not, at home by a Detroit team that was really struggling. So this looks like it should be a motivated spot for Tampa Bay. They're the better team here. They got shut out yesterday, 8-0, and now they're trying to avoid getting swept. So could be a motivated spot here for Tampa. Not sure that I actually love the pitching matchup here for them, though. Tampa does play Miami next. Who cares? Detroit has some divisional matchup next, I think. I think they're playing who are they playing? Minnesota? I don't even know. Something good to know, though, because, oh, no, they have Seattle next. My mistake. So, actually, they might look ahead to that because Seattle's been really hot recently, so maybe they will look ahead to the AL West leader there. So, yeah, situationally, the spot favors Tampa Bay here. As far as the bullpens, Tampa Bay used a bunch of guys out of it yesterday, 4. Detroit only used 1, so Detroit's bullpen sets up better here. They're ranked 21st, Tampa Bay 18th, but Tampa Bay's bullpen ERA is worse. So I think Detroit has a bullpen edge in this game. Tampa Bay has the better offense. They're 8th. Detroit is 24th, currently tied with the Red Sox as those teams keep kind of bouncing around a little bit. Detroit's going with Troy Melton here. He's got good numbers, very small sample size, though. 1.42 ERA, 0.95 WHIP. He's only made 2 appearances so far, but they were full starters' workloads, basically, and he did okay. He's only allowed 2 runs in 12 2/3 innings on the road against Baltimore and on the road against the White Sox. 8 hits allowed over that span, but 4.4 strikeout walk ratio is kind of an issue. His strikeout rate is just really low, so that's kind of the issue there. I don't really like guys that just don't strike anybody out. Although you look at his numbers last year, he made 4 starts. He worked out of the bullpen a bit as well. His numbers were good last year. 2.76 ERA, 1.01 whip. His strikeout rate was a little bit more tolerable, although still low, but he had a really low hit rate. So Melton is actually not that bad, even though it looks like he kind of throws junk, and Tampa does not Jansen junk. Tampa does not have much as far as numbers against him. They're 0 for 1. Only Mesa and Mullins have ever faced him. 0 for 1 with a strikeout and a walk. So Melton might actually pitch well here. Tampa is going with Nick Martinez, who's been surprisingly good this year. 1.62 ERA, 1.11 whip, but I think this is going to regress. I mean, he's a decent pitcher, but he's not this good, and he's 35 years old. He's been really good, though. Home and away, pretty much the same. He's allowed 1 or fewer earned run in every start on the entire season, actually. Oh, no, 2 or fewer in every start on the entire season. My mistake. 2 or fewer. But he's only allowed more than 1 twice. Or no, sorry, 3 times. So, yeah, he's not allowing runs at a high rate at all. But over the course of the season, he's allowed almost 1 hit per inning. His strikeout rate's low. His walk rate is fine. That's been basically the same over the past month, except his hit rate went up. 34 and 29 and 2/3 innings, 17 strikeouts, pretty low, but also a very low walk rate. 3 walks. Tampa's won 6 of his last 7 starts and 9 of his 11 this season, I think is what that is. He does not have good numbers against Detroit, though. 32 at-bats, 344 batting average, 1,070 OPS, 8-2 strikeout walk ratio, but do you really want to bank on him having like the worst start of his season here against a Detroit team that hasn't been hitting at all? I don't think I do. So I might lean to Detroit. Well, I can't lean to Detroit either because Tampa Bay is trying to avoid the sweep and they're the better team. The money is indicating against Tampa, though. They're at minus 145 or so here on the money line, 68% of the tickets and 52% of the cash on them. So the public is still coming in on Tampa Bay because they have the better record. And they're still leading the AL East, I'm pretty sure, because the Yankees lost a Schlittler game yesterday. So the money is indicating towards Detroit. I mean, I could see the argument for it. They have the better bullpen. Their starting pitcher actually might have a slight advantage here, too, based on what we saw with the matchup numbers. So as insane as it sounds, Detroit might actually sweep Tampa Bay here. There's definitely a possibility of that. There's some argument to be made for a first 5 under here as well. I would not go full game with it. Don't like these bullpens. Total's 8 for the full game, basically, but the first 5 under makes some sense. If you think Martinez is going to continue pitching well and Melton is kind of an under-the-radar pitcher, although there are definitely concerns with both of them in this game, though. So that's a pass for me. White Sox at Minnesota is an ESPN Unlimited game. This is all afternoon action. Minnesota is on the verge of a sweep. They've won the first 2 games. So we have a lot of teams trying to avoid sweeps today. Minnesota plays Kansas City next. I don't know that that's really a cause for a look ahead. I know it's a divisional series, but the White Sox, I think, still, this is a bigger game for Minnesota than the Kansas City series, I think. Even if Minnesota is on the verge of the sweep here, I think they're going to be motivated to try to do that because they lost 3 out of 4 at Chicago not that long ago. White Sox used 2 relief pitchers yesterday. Minnesota used 3. But Chicago's going to show up and try to avoid the sweep here, and they're the better team. The White Sox, bullpen-wise, they're not great, but they're 17th. Minnesota's bullpen has been one of the worst. They're at 27th. So the White Sox have a better bullpen here. White Sox offense has been quite good. They're number 6. Minnesota is 18th. So the White Sox have an offensive edge as well, generally. But then you look at the starting pitching matchup. I'm like, yeah, do you really want to back Eric Fetty, though, for the White Sox? I would generally say no, you do not. He's got a 5.4 ERA, 1.48 whip. This is not good, obviously. He's been really bad on the road. 7.54 road ERA. Right away, yeah, I'm like, yeah, you can't back this. He's been bad this month, 12-12 strikeout walk ratio during May. I mean, with 8 home runs allowed and 32 hits allowed in 20 innings. These are horrible numbers. He's in bad form here right now. However, he does actually have good numbers against Minnesota in 36 at-bats, 222 average, 578 OPS. I hate when everything doesn't line up nicely, man. 10-4 strikeout walk ratio. I mean, if Fedde is going to pitch well, it could be in a game like this where he's facing a team that he generally does well against, but he's really bad on the road. He's in awful form right now. I can't back him, man. Taj Bradley is getting the start from Minnesota. He's been pretty good for them, 3.21 ERA, 1.21 whip, but he has been worse recently. He is better at home, though, 2.33 home ERA. He had a bad start last time out against Pittsburgh. We lost the first 5 under in that game on the show. He didn't pitch as bad as maybe it looks, though. He had 6 strikeouts, 2 walks. Pittsburgh is a difficult offense to face as well on the road. Prior 3 starts, prior to that start, he'd allowed more than 2 earned runs only once over the entire season. So Bradley is generally pitching well this season. He's allowed way fewer than 1 hit per inning. His walk rate is definitely too high, though. The walks are the main concern with him. He's got to do something about that. And then his strikeout rate is also high, and that was also the case in the month of May. After he came back from injury, by the way. He was injured for a little bit. He missed like 2 weeks, and then he came back and made 2 starts, 1 good, 1 bad. Against the White Sox, he does not have good numbers, though. 29 at-bats, 414 average allowed, 1158 OPS, 4-3 strikeout walk ratio. What I will say, though, is he's pitching way better this year than he was in the past when he accumulated these numbers. So you might have to not weigh those matchup numbers that heavily because, again, it's a small sample, and it didn't happen this year, and he's pretty clearly pitching better this year, at least so far. So I don't know what I would want to do with this game. It's a stay away from me. I mean, I can't back Eric Fedde, dude, even though I think the money is the money is indicating against it. Yeah, White Sox have 51% of the tickets. The public still is going for the White Sox, maybe thinking like, hey, this White Sox team can't possibly get swept here, right? 77% of the cash, though, on Minnesota. Minnesota's favored at minus 150 or so. Minnesota is that heavily favored for a reason, dude. The odds makers are telling you that the White Sox don't set up that well in this game, even though they have the better record. Eric Fedde getting disrespected in the market here. But again, the matchup numbers actually do favor Fedde in this specific matchup here. So again, it's a game that's kind of all over the place in my mind. I want nothing to do with it. The money's also coming in on the over. There's definitely an argument to be made for the over here. I mean, you got bad bullpens. The total's at 8.5, so you could get it over a number that's still below that key number of 9 there. You get 2 bad bullpens. You get Fedde, who's at least atrocious on the road and in horrible form right now. And Bradley has bad matchup numbers. So I think there are more indicators towards an over there. I guess maybe if I had to make a play on that game, maybe I would do that and go over. But, yeah, that's a game I don't want anything to do with. Mets at Seattle. I mean, most of these games I want nothing to do with. Seattle is on the verge of a sweep as well. And like I said, they play Detroit next, so I don't know if that's really a look ahead or not. Generally, it would be because Detroit's been good over the past few years, but not this year, so I don't know. But it's probably pretty easy to overlook the Mets when you've already beaten them 2 out of 3 games here. Finally, the American League actually does something against the National League. With Seattle. Seattle's really hot right now. They've won whatever this is, 8 games in a row or something. I don't know if I really want to step in front of that here. They are the better team, obviously, but the pitching matchup, it's a decent pitching matchup. Both teams have a pretty good starter going in this game. Mariners only used 2 relief pitchers yesterday. Their bullpen is pretty solid. Mets' bullpen has been pretty good as well. They used 3 guys out of their bullpen. I like Seattle's bullpen a bit better, even though the Mets are ranked 8th here in whip. Seattle is 14th, but Seattle, their whip isn't that much worse, and their ERA is one of the best in baseball. I think second best. So you could definitely make the argument Seattle's got the better bullpen, and they're a little bit more rested here. Seattle's been good offensively recently. They're all the way up to 10th on the season, so they're significantly better than the Mets, who are still dead last, 30th. The Mets are going with Freddie Peralta. He's a pretty good pitcher, a 3.55 ERA this year. His whip is getting a little high, though, 1.3. He has some walk issues typically, but he's usually a pretty good pitcher. He's been a little bit better on the road this year, 3.13 ERA. And, of course, this is a pitcher-friendly environment here in Seattle, so I don't really think Peralta's going to pitch poorly here. His walk numbers got to go down, though. He's got 12 walks in 27 and 2/3 innings in the month of May, or he had that in the month of May, even though the Mets won 4 of his 5 outings. He had too many walks, dude. He did have 26 strikeouts, 28 hits allowed. Wasn't really that great either. Looking at his season numbers, his hit rate is a bit lower than that, so that's good. His walk rate is clearly too high, and his strikeout rate is pretty good, more than 1 per inning. So again, his main issue is the walks. That's the way that it is. He's been around for so long, we know pretty much exactly who he is. He did fail to go 5 innings last time out against the Marlins, but remember, that was a second straight game where he had to face the Marlins, so the Marlins might have made some adjustments to the previous game, even though he wasn't great in the previous game, but he was better in that game than the second game. So both Peralta and Max Meyer in that setup, they both pitched worse in the second game. Peralta has been really good against Seattle in his career in 47 at-bats, 149 average allowed, 486 OPS, 19-5 strikeout walk ratio. So the indicators, to me, I think are pretty much indicative that he should pitch well here. I think there are more indicators that are telling you that than otherwise. Seattle's going with George Kirby. He's been pretty good, 3.77 ERA, 1.22 whip. He's been a little bit worse at home. It's weird seeing a bunch of Seattle pitchers pitching worse at home, which almost never happens. 4.15 home ERA. Kirby hasn't been that good over his last few starts, man. A couple of them came at home, too. Didn't pitch well in the stadium against San Diego. Was okay on the road against Kansas City. Came back home and was a bit questionable against Arizona. You look at his overall numbers in May. 25-6 strikeout walk ratio is pretty good, though, so his command was there, but a 4.97 ERA wasn't great, and 33 hits in 29 innings wasn't that great either. So there are some issues right now, but overall his numbers are pretty good. Fewer than 1 hit per inning. His strikeout rate's not very high, though. He induces a lot of ground balls, and he's got a decent walk rate. It's not too high, really. Numbers against the Mets are okay. In 53 at-bats, 264 average allowed. OPS is a little bit high, though, 837. He's allowed 3 home runs to them, to Bichette, Semien, and Vientos. So 2 of those guys, at least 2 of those guys were in the American League, so he's familiar with them, or they're familiar with him. So it looks like the matchup numbers do go to Freddie Peralta here. So, if you want to look towards the Mets here, there's an argument to be had for it. I mean, backing Peralta is, not something that I would be that afraid to do. Although what we see is 50-50 on the tickets and 54% on the cash on Seattle. That makes no sense to me. Like, why would the public be on the Mets here? Seattle's been on fire recently, and they have the better record. To me, there's no way the public is playing the Mets here. There's just no way. Seattle's around minus 140 something here on the money line. Total is low at 7.5, so you're looking at probably a low-scoring game here. As the odds makers are telling you, it's about to drop back down to 7, I believe. I could see some arguments for it. Both starting pitchers are pretty good. Both bullpens are pretty good. I wouldn't really disagree with an under, but I think there are better arguments for the Mets here, really. Maybe Mets first 5 because Seattle's bullpen, I think, is a little bit better. It sets up a little bit better with the rest and whatever. So a first 5 with Peralta having the better matchup numbers and the Mets try to avoid a sweep makes some sense to me. You'll probably get them as an underdog. So Mets first 5, I think, is maybe the way that I would recommend playing that if I was going to play that game, which I am not. San Diego at Philadelphia. These teams continue their series tomorrow. They've only played 1 game so far in the series. Philadelphia won the game 3-2 yesterday. These teams still they're really struggling to hit, dude. Like, that matchup yesterday looked like it could have been potentially conducive to an over. That is not what happened at all. Nola was able to pitch well he was able to avoid the fade the baby spot. And Vasquez continues to pitch decently. Philadelphia used 4 relief pitchers yesterday. San Diego used 4 as well. They did not use Mason Miller, though, because it was not a save situation. San Diego is 6th in bullpen, but their ERA is one of the best. I think they're 3rd in ERA right now, behind Atlanta and Seattle. They're a really good bullpen. Philadelphia's bullpen has been decent. They're 12th, but San Diego does have the better bullpen here. Offensively, both teams have been struggling big time. 28th for the Phillies, 29th for the Padres. That is pretty ridiculous. Both of these offenses you would think should turn it around to some extent, especially Phillies, but whatever. Then we look at the starting pitching matchup here. It looks like a major mismatch in favor of Philadelphia here. Walker Buehler is pitching for San Diego. He's not great. 4.88 ERA, 1.32 whip. He hasn't really been good since he came back from surgery. He's been really bad on the road. 8.04 road ERA. And his surgery was years ago, by the way. He's been pretty bad since then. But yeah, he's got weak numbers this year. He's really bad on the road. Over the month of May, didn't go deep into most of his outings. Definitely kind of struggled a bit. Although the numbers were, I would say, more on the mediocre side, though. 19-6 strikeout walk ratio, 23 hits allowed in 26 2/3 innings, 4.39 ERA over that span. Numbers over the course of the season really aren't that terrible. Fewer than one hit per inning. His walk rate is too high. Walker, Buehler. And his strikeout rate is pretty low. So, the stuff that he used to have earlier in his career is definitely gone. Against Philadelphia, he has actually done pretty well. 88 at bats, 239 average allowed, 696 OPS, 15-9 strikeout walk ratio is not very good, though. But Buehler has been pretty good against Philadelphia. And in fact, these teams just faced off. As I pointed out, Philadelphia swept San Diego, I'm pretty sure, in San Diego. So you got to think San Diego has more motivation in this series, and now they've lost 4 straight games to Philadelphia. Buehler did not pitch that badly in that game, by the way. It was in San Diego, though. He pitches way better in that pitcher-friendly ballpark there. But he did hold Philly to 2 runs in 5 1/3 innings, 3 hits, no walks, and only 2 strikeouts. He was decent in that game, at least, though. However, he's going to be going up against Christopher Sanchez, who is making his Cy Young case here. Unfortunately for him, he's in the National League, and he's got to go up against Paul Skeens and Jacob Misiorowski. But he's got a 1.47 ERA. And Chase Burns should be in the discussion, man. He's pitching today, by the way. 1.47 ERA, 1.12 whip for Sanchez. Sanchez has been really good. He's been untouchable at home, basically. 0.85 home ERA. I would not want to fade him here right now, man. Even though I know I said that about Schlittler yesterday, and he had his worst game of his season. Sanchez, though, I mean, look at what he's doing here, man. He just went the entire month of May not allowing a run with 45 strikeouts and 3 walks, 25 hits and 39 innings. This is ridiculous, man. He didn't face too many good he faced the A's and Pittsburgh in there, so those are good offenses. Colorado, Cleveland, San Diego, not so much. So, yes, he did face San Diego in San Diego in that recent series, and obviously he shut them out for 7 innings, 9 strikeouts, no walks, 6 hits. He was really good in that outing as well. Sanchez is pitching at an elite level right now. I wouldn't want to fade him, and he's one of a handful of pitchers in Major League history that went an entire month without allowing a run. Doesn't happen often, man. I think there are only a few pitchers who have done that, and he's now one of them. He's got one of the highest strikeout rates in baseball. He's got a low walk rate, pretty low hit rate as well. Not a lot to dislike about Sanchez here at this point. Previous years I've been, a little bit concerned about like his walk rate and stuff, but that seems like it's not a concern right now either. His numbers against San Diego, believe it or not, are pretty bad, though. In 74 at-bats, 338 average, 837 OPS, 16-3 strikeout walk ratio is good, though. But he just dominated San Diego last time out. So do you really want to, do you really think he's going to pitch poorly here? I would say probably not. Virtually every start of his is good. He's allowed no more than 2 earned runs in any start this season except one where he got rocked against the Cubs on the road. Other than that, he's been unhittable pretty much. So I would not want to fade him, Philadelphia's getting the money here, too. I mean, I think the professional bettors are just like, well, yeah, it's Sanchez against Buehler. But, of course, you have to pay a price for it. You got to take that price into account. Philadelphia's minus 210 or even higher than that. 57% of tickets, 82% of the cash on Philly. It's a low total, by the way, 7.5. So odds makers factoring in a couple of weak offenses here. Sanchez is pitching great. Buehler has good matchup numbers at least here. Could it be another under game? It could. The bullpens are a little bit unused right now. You could go first 5 under here maybe. You're looking at 3.5 probably on that. That seems a little dangerous to me as well. There are just some question marks with both pitchers here. I don't know what I would want to do with this, although the money is saying Philadelphia. I mean, if you go Philadelphia, though, you basically have to lay like a run line here, and laying a -1.5 with the home team with a low total like this, no, I don't want to do that. Yeah, too many things are up in the air in that game. I think Philadelphia should win the game, though. I mean, I guess there's a potential that you could moneyline parlay them somewhere, but yeah, I mean, I usually don't recommend that. The only two types of parlays that I would ever even like recommend at all, even though I hate parlays, I would recommend never doing them. But if you're going to do them, I would say like a two-leg parlay where you're taking two favorites that are in like a -200 to -300 price range to knock the price down on both of them. But it's still bad because you don't get good enough value on a parlay like that. And there's two independent results, so I still don't really like that. A correlated parlay, which some books won't even let you do it, but you could do it at two different books, is probably the only parlay that actually might be advantageous when you know that, like, oh, this specific team covering is correlated to an under or something like that, like a huge underdog correlated to an under, you know what I mean? But a lot of books, won't let you do it, but you can play those two bets at two separate books. So it's not at that point, it's not a parlay, though. You're just making two straight bets. So what am I talking about? But yeah, most books won't let you parlay those, though, because they know that particular type of parlay is like the only advantageous one. My mind is out of it right now, man. I'm like, wait, parlaying across books? Yeah, no, you can't do that. Amazon Prime has Cleveland and the Yankees here. Oh, no, wait, how dare I skip the Red Sox? All right, hang on. Red Sox and Baltimore. The Red Sox lost again yesterday. They were returning home from the road, but it was only a single series road trip. I thought the Red Sox had the advantages in that game somewhat. They lost 4-2, so the Red Sox are, again, failing to score at home, even though their last homestand, they actually scored a lot, and their pitching was bad. But now it looks like it's their hitting that's bad again, so that's great. The Red Sox have a better bullpen than Baltimore does. Both teams used two guys out of the bullpen yesterday. The Red Sox are ranked 4th here in bullpen, and they have one of the best bullpen ERAs. I think also the 4th best in that category. Baltimore is not very good. They're 20th. Red Sox hitting has been inferior, though. They're 24th, although they had started hitting better. So maybe yesterday's game was a little bit of a fluke. Maybe they will put up some more offense here. I don't know. They're facing a pitcher that maybe they should be able to do that against today. Baltimore has the 10th ranked offense. Now, if you look at this starting pitching matchup on the surface, this looks like a pretty big advantage to the Red Sox here. Chris Bassitt is pitching for Baltimore. He sucks. 5.06 ERA, 1.58 whip. Awful. That whip is terrible. He's been really bad on the road. 8.02 road ERA. So it's looking like, you should want to fade him here, right? And I was thinking about this being a play for me. This is one of my stronger opinions on the board today, is finding a way to play the Red Sox here, because Bassitt is a bad pitcher. He's bad on the road. The Red Sox should be in a bounce-back spot here at home. But the Red Sox have been awful at home. The Red Sox have not hit well at home outside of their most recent homestand. Bassitt did pitch okay in his last game against Toronto. They're a weak offense, but so is the Red Sox. But that was at home, where Bassitt, throughout his career, he's always been way better at home. His last road start wasn't particularly good at Washington, although it wasn't horrible. This past month, he actually wasn't that bad. 19-6 strikeout walk ratio, 26 hits in 25 1/3 innings, 4.62 ERA. But his other metrics kind of indicated he was a little bit better than that. And his numbers against the Red Sox, they're not quite bad enough. I don't know, man. This is a tough one for me, because the Red Sox hit him for contact. They've seen a lot of him. They have 100 at-bats against him, 280 batting average against him. That's pretty solid. But they only have a 697 OPS off him. So they have not hit Bassitt for power, although Willie Abreu has the home run against him. He's done a lot of damage against him. Kiner Falefa has done a lot of damage against him, and Yoshida has hit him well as well. So the Red Sox do have guys that have gotten to Bassitt, so I still would lean towards fading Bassitt here. Plus, if you're playing the Red Sox, you got Peyton Tully here. He's been good, 2.61 ERA, 0.9 whip. A little bit worse at home, 2.91 ERA, but pretty solid either way. Totally struggled a little bit in his last game, but it was against the Braves. They're a really good offense. I still had 7 strikeouts and 2 walks in that outing. Didn't make it 5 innings, but I think it was really more his pitch count than anything else, or the way that that's set up. I think he put guys on base, so they took him out, and then the bullpen might have actually allowed those runs. I don't know. I think we had an under in that game, I think, and it went completely haywire, but whatever. Tully's been good. His strikeout rate's more than 1 per inning. His hit rate is very low. Walk rate, not bad either. Going up against Baltimore, they basically have never seen him before. Only Blaze Alexander has ever faced him. And he's got 2 walks against him. Those are his only at-bats. He's walked every time. But Tully has the unfamiliarity edge here. You know, I'm tempted, man. I'm tempted to add this one. I like the Red Sox in this one. Thomas, what's up, man? Or is it, how do you pronounce your name? Twomis, what's up, man? Why do you think Tully will get crushed? He's a good pitcher. And he's facing a team that basically has no experience against him, which is an extra advantage to the young pitcher. You're just trying to grind my gears here, and you're trying to get me to give out a play on the Red Sox. You know what? Let's do it. Well, you can see my play there. Whoops. Hold on. I'm going to add this play, though. Looks like the odds logic screen is not working again. That's great. The free one. Hold on. I think this is going to be a split bet unless we can get the Red Sox money line at a decent price here. But yeah, we're going to go with the Red Sox here. Let me see. Yeah, it looks like it's minus. One book has minus 148. Every other book is in the minus 150s. I'm going to make it a split bet. I'm going to do a run line bet here. Hold on while I calculate this. So it looks like the money line is minus 148, I actually see out there, which is, you could just play the money line if you do find a price that's like that, but 150 is usually the cutoff that I have here. Minus 1.5 is at plus 135, it looks, or plus 143, actually, at that same book, the book with the B that sometimes I can't use. So the split is going to be about, if you're trying to win 100, it's about 60 on the money line part of it. That would be what it is. And then whatever that returns, you put the rest of it on. You put the same amount that the money line would return on the rest of the bet. You know what I mean? So I'm going to do this. It's going to be a split bet. So if the Red Sox win by 1, the bet will push. Hold on. Yep. All right, I think I got that right. So, let me see. My apologies. This is the best bet. Like, the only thing that was kind of holding me back was Bassitt's OPS against, but the more I think about it, Red Sox have a lot of familiarity with him. He blows on the road. He's worse right now. Yeah, let's just do it. So, it's going to be Red Sox minus 1.5 at plus 143. And minus 148. I'm pretty sure that's the split there. So it's a split bet. About 60% of what you're trying to win on the money line. And then whatever that returns, put that same amount on the run line part of it, if that makes sense. So that's what we're doing with that one. All right, Red Sox will be a play there. If we look at the money on that game, I know this show is going to go long again. I thought I was doing well. It looks like 59% of tickets and cash on the Red Sox right now, so no real indicator here. The total in that game is 9, which seems ridiculous. Really, 9? I mean, I know Bassitt is really bad on the road, but 9 in a Tully game with this Red Sox offense, 9 seems ridiculous to me. And wind is not really a factor at Fenway Park, so I don't know, man. It is a more hitter-friendly ballpark, though, but usually that does not influence the total very much. But yeah, whatever. Red Sox with the play there, split bet. She squealed. What's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. Good to see everybody again. All right, Cleveland and the Yankees. The Yankees, you got to think, should be in a bounce-back spot as they just lost the Schlittler game yesterday. He had a bad game for once. Cleveland wound up getting the win 9-4. Should be a bounce-back spot here. The Yankees are the better team, but the pitching matchup is much more 50-50 than it was yesterday, let's say. Cleveland's got one of their better pitchers on the mound here today. Going up against a good pitcher for the Yankees, too, though. But yesterday, it looked like it was a huge mismatch towards the Yankees. They lost, which, of course, means they'll probably win this time. And that's kind of what I think here. But there might be other ways to look at this game, too, because both starting pitchers are good. Yankees return home from the road, by the way. They're returning home from going to KC and the A's. So, I talked about that. It was a negative spot for the Yankees in the return home spot. A lot of times teams struggle in that spot, especially traveling cross country. So that's what happened. A lot of times when that team does do bad, especially when they're the better team, they bounce back pretty well in the next game. So it is a positive spot for the Yankees in this game. You had Alvarez and Lowe on home runs. Yeah, you know how I feel about home run props. I think they're like lunch money bets because you can't win long term making those bets. Like the odds makers know that they know that the public bettors like to just play those because oh my God, I'm getting these odds that look great on these, but obviously the odds makers don't give you anywhere near good enough odds. Like even the best home run hitter is only going to hit a home run like once every 11 at bats or whatever. And the odds don't reflect that. Yes. Well, the Yankees spot is one thing, but yeah, if you look at the matchup here, I'm not so sure about it. Yankees used 4 relief pitchers yesterday. Cleveland Cleveland used 5. Cleveland's bullpen, I don't know. I mean, they're hard to figure out. They're okay. They're 13th. Their ERA is a little bit questionable, though. Yankees bullpen is actually ranked below them at 15th, although the ERA is a little bit better. They're two, I would say mediocre to above average bullpens here, but they're used up right now, so I don't really love the bullpens here. Yankees have the number 2 offense. Cleveland's offense is not good at 22nd, so that is obviously an advantage to the Yankees here. Yankees have to go up against Gavin Williams, though. He's pretty good. 3.07 ERA, 1.09 whip. Little bit worse on the road. Well, I don't want to say significantly, but yeah, his road numbers are elevated. 3.89 road ERA. He is better at home, so yes, he's in the worst of his home road splits here. But his last road game, he dominated Philadelphia. I know Philadelphia hasn't been hitting, though. Yankees are a different animal. Williams has been really good, though, over the month of May. 35 strikeouts and 5 walks in 33 innings. He's been a little bit too hittable, though. 34 hits over that span. So he's changed something because he used to be too walk-heavy, but now he's like a little bit too hittable. So I don't know what he changed, but he does seem to be kind of finding some sort of balance here between the two, though, which is what you want, which is good. He's allowed way fewer than 1 hit per inning on the season. His walk rate is a little bit high, but not horrible. And his strikeout rate is high as well. Williams is pretty good overall, man. He's pitched really well in his last 3 outings. 2 or fewer earned runs allowed in 6+ innings in each of them. Numbers against the Yankees, though, not too good. 35 at-bats, 11 strikeouts, 6 walks, 286 average allowed, 905 OPS. So I don't love how Williams matches up here, but some of those numbers were back when he wasn't as good as he is now, though. Hasn't faced the Yankees this year, so Williams is a little bit different here now. Cole dominates bad hitting teams. He has good numbers in this matchup. This is his 3rd start back from missing it over an entire season with Tommy John. Cole has a 0 ERA so far and a .71 whip. He's made 1 start at home, 1 on the road so far. He's given up no runs, as I just said, 6 hits in 12 2/3 innings over those 2 starts, 12 strikeouts, 3 walks. He had 10 strikeouts in his last outing at Kansas City. Also shut out Tampa Bay the game before that, which is pretty good because they're a pretty good offense. Kansas City, not so much. But Cleveland is also not a good offense. Cole's numbers are actually not as good as I thought that they were. 77 at-bats, 260 average, 794 OPS. So he does not dominate Cleveland like you might think, especially with how dominant his career has been. This is, I don't know, it's a little bit of a red flag that he's had a dominant career, but Cleveland has kind of gotten to him. Although when you look at the numbers, it's really just Jose Ramirez doing all the damage there. So if it's one guy that kills you, you can pitch around him. But overall, it's a 260 average, 794 OPS, 17-11 strikeout walk ratio. What are you, a Yankee fan? Fuck that. Yankees suck. Fuck the Yankees. I want them to lose every fucking game. I don't know what's going to happen in this game, but I mean, on the surface, you look at this pitching matchup, and it looks like it would be an under, and the money is coming in that way, or it looked like it was, but now maybe it's not. 91% of tickets on the under, 89% of the cash on the under. I don't think the public is playing an under here, though. I don't think they're going to come in and play an under in a Yankees game, even if it is Cole. I still don't think they're going to do it, especially when the total's low at 7. So the odds makers are kind of telling you they think this is going to be a lower scoring game because they're telling you both these pitchers are solid. So, yes, I'm going to have to ban you, She Squealed, if you're going to keep promoting the Yankees here. Fuck them. Fuck you. But I don't know, dude. So I think the actual money is probably hitting the under here, but I just showed you these matchup numbers that each pitcher has. They're not as good as you would think in either direction here. And given that the bullpens are unrested, I think there is a way to go over in this game. If you go full game and you take advantage of those bullpens there, then good. All right, fuck off. You're out, asshole. Never come back. I don't give a shit anymore, dude. I'm kind of messing around here, but if you want to, come back at me like that, get out of my show, man. Fuck off. All right. Fuck the Yankees too. But anyway, I think I would go over in this game. I think if I was going to do anything, which sounds insane, and I don't like going over in games that have a low total like that. Cleveland is getting some of the money there as well. 59% of tickets, 65% of the cash on Cleveland. So do with that information what you want. And the Yankees are a favorite, obviously. They're around minus 150 something there. So if you go Cleveland, you could go like a run line type of situation, split bet, run line, money line, whatever. All right, Kansas City and Cincinnati. I was thinking about this game. Chase Burns is going to pitch here after he did not pitch when we wanted to make the play on Cincinnati a couple days ago. Burns was sick, but I guess he is now pitching 2 days later today. These teams have split the series so far, so I believe this is the end of the series. So whoever wins this game wins the series. Kansas City plays Minnesota tomorrow. Whatever. Cincinnati bounced back with a win yesterday, I believe. Cincinnati used 4 relief pitchers yesterday. Kansas City used 3. Neither of these bullpens are good. Kansas City's ranked dead last, although Houston still has a worse ERA. Kansas City still really, really a bad bullpen. Cincinnati also quite bad at 28th. So we have 2 bad bullpens here. Cincinnati's been the better offense. They're ranked 14th right now. Kansas City 27th. I mean, I referred to Burns as being as I basically said he should be in the Cy Young discussion, although I have not heard him being in the Cy Young discussion. But if you look at his numbers, he's like one of the top several pitchers in the National League. Kansas City's going with Steven Kolek here. He's been pretty good. 3.48 ERA, 0.94 whip. He's been significantly worse away from home, though. 5.06 road ERA, which might not be good when this is a hitter-friendly ballpark here in Cincinnati. Kolek struggled in his last game against Texas. That's not a good sign because that's a really pitcher-friendly ballpark, and Texas doesn't hit very well, especially at home. But Kolek got a little bit unlucky there because it looks like there were some errors. He wound up giving up 4 earned runs in 5 innings, but only had 6 hits, allowed 1 walk, 5 strikeouts, so he wasn't actually bad in that game. Overall in the season, 31 innings pitched. He's only made 5 starts so far. Started in May because I think he was injured at the beginning of the season. Had 23 hits allowed in 31 innings so far. 19 strikeouts is not very many, but 6 walks is also low. So, I mean, he's kind of a junk pitcher, but he's pretty effective. He's allowed more than 3 earned runs twice in his 5 starts, though. Numbers against Cincinnati are good and 23 at bats. Not a huge sample here. 217 average, allowed 525 OPS, 9-3 strikeout walk ratio. So his numbers are good against Cincinnati, and he is going up against Chase Burns. 1.96 ERA for him, 0.96 whip. He's been a little bit worse at home, but not really significant, and it's a hitter-friendly ballpark, so he's allowed 2 or fewer earned runs in all but 1 start this entire season, which was a home start against Anaheim. Overall, really good numbers here. well over 1 strikeout per inning, well below 1 hit allowed per inning. Walk rate is a little bit high, so you'd like to see that go down. But in May, he had 8 walks in 30 1/3 innings, 16 hits allowed, and 33 strikeouts. Had a really good May with a 1.19 ERA. Picked up a win in his last 4 starts, including starts against Houston and Washington, both at home. Those are 2 teams that can hit, though. Yeah, Burns looks good. I handicapped him 2 days ago like he was going to pitch here. He's still facing Kansas City here. Kansas City's never faced him before. So I liked how Burns set up 2 days ago. I still like it here, although the one question is, how is he going to do if he's off schedule now? You know what I mean? Because if he was going to pitch on schedule, he would have pitched 2 days ago. He was sick, so now he's going to pitch off schedule. And pitchers, they're creatures of habit, especially when you're this young and you haven't pitched that much in the majors so far. Being off schedule could throw him off a little bit, but he's good enough that I'm going to still lean more towards him pitching well here. So I like the first 5 under in this game. That would be the way that I would go in this one. Total's 8.5 for the full game. We don't see any percentages on this yet, and Cincinnati's favored by around minus 160 or so here, or in the minus 150s. But yeah, I think first 5 under is the way I would play this game. I don't really have an angle otherwise in that game that I think is that great. But I think both starting pitchers might actually do okay there. So that's the way I would lean in that game. Toronto at Atlanta. Atlanta, unfortunately, won yesterday. Although we needed Toronto to be winning after 5, but they were not. They were down 3-2 after it was tied 2-2 after they... I believe Gaussman gave up a couple early runs and then settled down, and Toronto tied the game, but then he gave up one more run. Not happy about it. Atlanta won 4-3, and it was in a return home spot. They are the better team. The National League, as we said, has had the upper hand over the American League, although we did get the A's play right yesterday against the National League team. Braves have a good bullpen, and it's pretty rested here. They used 2 guys out of the bullpen yesterday, although it was a close game, so they had to use some of their better arms. Toronto used 3 guys out of the bullpen yesterday. Braves have the number 1 ranked bullpen in both WHIP and ERA. The ERA below 3 right now. Really good. Toronto's bullpen's been okay at 11th, but their ERA is a bit higher than that. Hitting-wise, the Braves are number 3, and Toronto has been way weaker at 26th. So the Braves do have an advantage in both of those departments. Patrick Corbin pitching for Toronto. I'm still not a fan of him. He does have a 3.65 ERA this year, which is pretty good. 1.36 WHIP is not great, though. That WHIP is too high. He's been good on the road, though. He's been better on the road. 2.97 road ERA. And he actually pitched pretty well in the month of May for the most part. 20-8 strikeout walk ratio. Could be better, though. But it was because his strikeout rate was low. 30 innings pitched, 35 hits allowed over that span. Didn't allow more than 3 earned runs in any outing, although he had some shortened outings there. But he was pitching okay in the month of May. He has a low strikeout rate on the season, a pretty high hit rate, though, and his walk rate is somewhat okay. Corbin, he's been mediocre, I would say, this year. He's not awful right now. His numbers against the Braves are pretty awful, though. 158 at-bats because he was on Washington for a while, so the Braves have seen a lot of him. 38 strikeouts, 14 walks, not a great ratio there. 354 average allowed, 1,046 OPS. So his numbers are not good against Atlanta. I think Corbin may be fadeable here. Atlanta definitely does have experience against him, and they get to him. Grant Holmes is pitching for the Braves. He's been similar to Corbin in a way, although Holmes definitely has better stuff and is younger than Corbin. But he's got a 3.95 ERA, 1.33 WHIP. So they both have an ERA in the 3s, but their WHIP kind of indicates that they're a little bit worse than that. Holmes has been very similar home and away this year. Last year, he was significantly better at home, though, where he is here. The Braves have done well in his starts, though. They've won 8 of his last 10 starts. He's allowed 3 or fewer earned runs in all but 1 this entire season. So generally, he's pitching pretty well. And that one start was at Coors Field, by the way. So Holmes has actually pitched pretty well otherwise, except his walk number is concerning. His strikeout rate's a little low. His hit rate is good. It's low, although he's allowed 11 home runs, which is not good on the course of the season. But his walk rate over the last month and over the course of the season, not good. And his hit rate went up over the month of May as well. 26 hits in 24 2/3 innings. 11 walks, 28 strikeouts. So his strikeout rate was good, but his walk rate and his hit rate both bad over the last month, and his walk rate's been bad over the course of the season. So that is a little bit concerning. But he does get to face a pretty weak Toronto lineup here. They have 26 at-bats against him. They have not been successful against him. 192 average, 660 OPS, 2-3 strikeout walk ratio, though. But I think generally I would probably lean towards Atlanta here. I think they have the advantage, at least to some extent, in all three phases of this game, including the starting pitching edge. So I'd probably lean Atlanta here, even though I know they won yesterday. But the money seems to kind of indicate that way, although they might be a bit of a public side, too. 85% of tickets, 88% of the cash on Atlanta. Toronto might still be hanging on to some of that perception from winning the American League last year, but they're not as good this year. Although they're starting to play a little bit better. Atlanta's around minus 140 something on the money line. I'd lean Atlanta, though. Next game up will be my other play, because now I have two. This was going to be my initial play, and this is one where we don't even know who Milwaukee's starter is, but I'm going to give it out anyway as a play, and you guys already probably saw what it was. We're going to go San Francisco first five. Oh, hold on. I thought I had to put in the system. I already have it. San Francisco first five at plus 102. And you might be thinking, well, that's crazy. Plus 102. Because on the full game, they're like plus 130 something. Yeah, the odds makers are telling you that San Francisco has a big matchup edge early in this game with the starting pitching here. Milwaukee might not even have a starting pitcher for this game. Meanwhile, the odds makers are telling you to not trust San Francisco's bullpen, which is what I just said. Their bullpen seems like it's really falling apart. So we might have to, moving forward, we may have to, if we're going to play unders in Giants games, we may have to be looking at first five instead of full game. Got to adjust, man. I didn't adjust fast enough, because that would have gotten us a winner instead of a loser yesterday, and that was the difference between a winning day and a losing day. I'm not happy. But I like San Francisco in this one, man. They're trying to avoid the sweep, but we're going first five because, again, I don't like the bullpens. Or I don't like San Francisco's bullpen, I mean. Milwaukee is trying to get the sweep here. I believe this is the end of the series. My mistake. They're playing tomorrow, too. My mistake. But still, Milwaukee's won both games in the series so far in blowout fashion. 16-2 and 8-3. But Milwaukee had kind of a big advantage in the first game, and then in the second game, well, actually, I don't know. Landon Raup just didn't pitch well. Then yesterday was a lot closer than the final looked, at least. That game was like 4-3 going into the bottom of the eighth. Very unfortunate. It was 4-1 going into the top of the eighth, so looked like the under was going to hit. I'm not happy about it. But yes, yesterday's game was a little bit closer. I know San Francisco's not good. I know Milwaukee is a significantly better team. We're taking the bullpens out because Milwaukee does have the better bullpen here. They're ranked 10th. They have a good bullpen ERA as well. Giants are now 25th, and their ERA is over 4. Yeah, they're entering territory where I want nothing to do with that bullpen. Hitting-wise, the Giants have improved. Somehow they're at 16th, although I know they're going to fall back down, because a lot of that was from that offensive outburst in Coors Field. But they're still sitting at 16th there, and the Brewers are 17th, although I think the Brewers are the better offense. But we're looking at the starting pitching here, man. I like pitching over hitting. Logan Webb is pitching for San Francisco, and you might think, well, why would you want him? 4.82 ERA, 1.39 whip. Yeah, I know. But he's a veteran. He's still working his way back from injury a little bit here, but at some point he's going to, I think, be somewhat back to where he was. I mean, if you look at his career, he's got a 3.45 ERA and 1.2 whip over his career, all with San Francisco. He's a solid pitcher, dude. And while he's not as good on the road, I admit that. This year, he's actually been better on the road. 3.68 road ERA. Usually he's better at home, but I don't know what's going on with that San Francisco pitcher-friendly park, because Webb has actually been better on the road. But hey, I'll take it if he's pitching better on the road right now. He just came back from another injury, and so he had a kind of a shorter start against Colorado. He was inefficient with his pitches, yeah, but he was in Coors Field. He held them to 1 run in 4 1/3 innings, 3 hits. He did have 3 walks, a little bit of an issue, 5 strikeouts, but he wasn't that bad in that game. So Webb, I mean, to me, it looks like he's starting to pitch better. Like, the whole month of April was actually pretty good for him. His numbers are being skewed by a bad start against the Yankees to open the season, And then that start, when he got injured, the start against San Diego, something wasn't right with him there. So I think Webb is better than his numbers look. Obviously, if you look at his career numbers, we pretty much know who he is. And he's not a guy that's going to, like, completely lose, like, velocity or whatever, because he's not a guy that throws that hard. He's more of a grinder. He goes out there, throws a lot of innings, and just does consistently well. He's got lower than 1 strikeout per inning, but he's not a huge strikeout guy. Fewer than 1 hit allowed per inning, and his walk rate is not horrible here, even though I know his whip is too high. But his overall numbers don't look that bad to me. And here's the key here. He does well against Milwaukee. He's held them to a 200 batting average, 568 OPS, 17-7 strikeout walk ratio is not great, but whatever. In 70 at bats, so we have a big sample size to work with here, and he's held Milwaukee to some low numbers. And in fact, he did face them twice last year. He pitched in Milwaukee in August, and he went 6 innings, allowed 1 run in that one on 5 hits, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, had a win. They won 7-1, so he had a good outing in that one. And San Francisco wasn't particularly good last year either. And he did pitch against Milwaukee at home early in the season last year in April and shut them out for 6 innings. He gave up 6 hits, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts. So he pitched well both times against Milwaukee last year, including most recently here in Milwaukee. And Milwaukee is going with a bullpen game here, it looks like, sort of. It looks like it's going to be, because they have way too many. Look at their starting pitching here. Woodruff, Henderson, Priest are all on the injured list right now. Ridiculous. This pitching rotation is going to be really good when those guys come back. Probably good for Milwaukee because their pitchers are going to be going into the playoffs not having pitched the full season in a lot of cases. Milwaukee, I think they're going to be going with Coleman Crowe here, not Cameron Crowe, not the 90s movie director or whatever. Crowe's been good. I'm assuming we're going to get him in this game, but I'm not entirely sure. 3.14 ERA, 0.98 whip. He's got good numbers, but he's not really that talented of a pitcher. He last pitched on the 29th, so I think he may be going today. It looks like it would be his turn if you go back in their schedule. But he only went 5 innings in 2 of his 3 starts, so they held him to fewer than 5 innings. He's only been going like 70, 60 pitches in each game, too. So he's on kind of a short leash here. Didn't pitch that well last time out against Houston. I don't think that he's that trustworthy. And while, yeah, San Francisco hasn't seen him, whatever, he's a young guy, but I don't know, man. I know his numbers are okay, but he doesn't strike a lot of guys out. If you look at his scouting reports basically have him as like kind of a fill-in starter or like a bullpen type of guy, and that's how Milwaukee's using him. Yeah, let's do it. We'll take San Francisco on the money line in the first 5 here and just go with Webb against what's probably going to be some sort of bullpen-esque situation for Milwaukee here. We don't even see what's going on with the percentages yet, but I did tell you Milwaukee is around like minus 150. So, yes, the odds makers are telling you San Francisco has a bigger edge in the first 5 by lining the game like this, but that is what we're doing. There's still a little bit of an underdog there. All right. I'm going to take a break. I'll be back and then finish the baseball, and then we have WNBA and NBA to talk about. NBA, I hope, doesn't take too long, but for the NBA, there's kind of a lot to discuss here. All right, I will be back in a second. All right. Next game is Texas St. Louis, which is on ESPN Unlimited. St. Louis lost both games so far, so Texas is looking for a sweep here, actually. So it's not a good situation for Texas, in my opinion, because you might overlook your opponent when you're about to sweep them. Texas plays Cleveland next, which is a fairly big American League series. Cleveland, they're close to I think they're still atop the AL Central, although it's a bad division. As far as the bullpens are concerned here, oh, right. Sorry, I didn't look at the bullpen. How did I skip the bullpens in the Milwaukee handicap? Sorry. San Francisco used 4 relief pitchers. Well, it's because I went first 5. Milwaukee used 3, including their closer, but still, we're taking San Francisco out of that equation, man, like I said. Anyway, this game, St. Louis and Texas. St. Louis used 4 relief pitchers yesterday. Texas used 3, although Quantrill for 1 pitch. Obviously, he could pitch again today. Texas has the better bullpen. They're ranked 9th. They're a pretty strong bullpen. St. Louis, 19th, not as good. Offensively, both teams have actually kind of struggled a bit. St. Louis, 21st. Texas, 22nd. I did think St. Louis would come back down to earth at some point here. Now, looking at the starting pitching, though, it doesn't exactly look like a pitching matchup where I'd really want to back St. Louis here. Texas is going with Mackenzie Gore. He's been pretty good, though, for them. 3.96 ERA, 1.19 whip. He's starting to pitch better again recently, but he's been significantly worse on the road. 5.81 road ERA. However, at least in this matchup, this is a pitcher-friendly ballpark here at the very least. Gore's been better recently. He had one start where he got injured. I don't know what the deal was. I think he got hit by a line drive or something at Coors Field. Wasn't pitching well in that outing anyway, but his other 3 of his last 4 outings have all been good. So he is pitching better right now, even though his walk number is still too high. His strikeout rate is high, and his hit rate is really low. So his one issue is the walks, and that remains the case throughout the last month or so. But he has been pitching a little bit better. His numbers against St. Louis are decent as well. In 39 at-bats, 256 average, 694 OPS, 14-3 strikeout walk ratio. So even though Gore is bad on the road, this is a pitcher-friendly park. It's an offense that hasn't been doing that well, and he does have good matchup numbers against him. So I kind of lean more towards Gore pitching well here. And I don't really want to back Andre Pallante for the Cardinals. He's not great. 4.19 ERA, 1.34 whip. He's way worse at home, so the home road splits are against both starters here. 5.52 home ERA. Pallante, not good in his last outing. The Cubs knocked him around here in this stadium, although he was good in the previous 2 starts against Cincinnati and Kansas City. And he's going up against Texas here, who isn't as good of an offense. Pallante does not have a high strikeout rate. His hit rate is pretty good. His walk rate is like a little bit high. So overall, yeah, not a good strikeout walk ratio, man. He walks too many guys, doesn't have great strikeout stuff. But Texas only has 5 hitters who have faced him, 23 at-bats, 2 strikeouts, 1 walk, 130 average, 384 OPS. Pallante has done well against Texas at the very least. I think this game kind of reads as a first 5 under, maybe full game, but I don't trust St. Louis's bullpen enough. The total for the full game is around 8. And we have money coming in on St. Louis, by the way. 69% of tickets, 84% of the cash on St. Louis. They're right around a pick'em price at minus 110. Like I said, I think the situation favors St. Louis because they're trying to avoid the sweep. Texas might start looking ahead to Cleveland, but and it could be a potentially a close game, but I think if it's a close game, Texas, with their bullpen edge, has a decent shot to win the game, obviously. So I think if I was going to go with this game, I would go first 5 under, though. I think both starting pitchers might actually have decent matchups here, even though they're both in the negative of their home road splits, though, so I really don't love that either. But if I had to figure out something to do in that game, I guess that's what I would do. A's at the Cubs. We got the win with the A's yesterday in the first 5. They won the full game as well. After the Cubs led 1-0 early, the A's took the lead before the end of the 5th, and then there were no runs scored after that. Kind of surprising. Cubs were in a return home spot, though, so I talk about that. When a team returns home from the road and they struggle in that first game, they tend to do better in the next game and bounce back. So the Cubs, they're the better team as well. They're in a positive spot here. The Cubs used 2 relief pitchers yesterday. They're a pretty rested bullpen right now, and they're the better bullpen. The A's used 3. They're pretty rested too, but Cubs have the better bullpen. They're ranked 7th. The A's are 22nd. Not great. Cubs are ranked 10th offensively now, and the A's are 9th. Cubs are tied with Baltimore and Seattle in OPS. But I think, I don't know. It's tough. I think both of these offenses are pretty close to each other. Jeffrey Springs is getting the start for the A's. He's been pretty good, especially given the fact that pitching in the A's stadium is really bad. He still has pretty good numbers on the season, 4.07 ERA, 1.19 whip. He's been better on the road, which makes sense because the A's stadium's really hard to pitch in. He's got a 3.6 road ERA, so Springs is pretty good on the road. Did well at home in his last outing against Seattle. He did all right in that game. Bunch of runs came home, but a lot of them were unearned, so he actually pitched pretty well there. Over the course of the season, fairly low strikeout rate, though, but also a low hit rate. He's allowed too many home runs, though, 12 home runs. But, of course, that comes into play way more. That's way more dangerous in the A's stadium than it is on the road, depending on what stadium you're in, of course. And this, which stadium we're talking about? This is Wrigley Field. So Wrigley Field is very wind-dependent, though. And Springs has too many walks, though. Those numbers have kind of continued over the past month, though the A's lost all of his starts in May. But he wasn't really that bad. His strikeout rate was okay. His walk rate was actually a little bit lower. His hit rate was a little bit higher. Against the Cubs, he has not done well, though. In 25 at-bats, 360 average, 1,069 OPS. That doesn't look great for Springs here, even though he is better on the road. 7-3 strikeout walk ratio against the Cubs, by the way. He's better on the road, but he doesn't pitch particularly well against the Cubs. Colin Ray is going for the Cubs. He's not great. 4.7 ERA, 1.37 whip. He's been better at home, though, so both pitchers are in the better of their home-road split here. 2.96 ERA at home, so he's significantly better at home for whatever reason. His numbers are pretty untrustworthy, though. He's allowed more than one hit per inning this month. His walk rate's a bit too high. Strikeout rate low. All of that is the case over the course of the season, too. That's just how he pitches. Mediocre pitcher. His numbers are not very good against the A's. 24 at-bats, 292 average allowed, 792 OPS, 3 strikeouts and no walks, though. Brent Rooker has done a lot of the damage. Has 2 of the 3 extra base hits, a double and a home run there. So Ray might match up maybe a little bit better here. I'd probably lean to the Cubs, given that they have the better bullpen. The pitching matchup looks like a bit of a wash, and the the situation is also in favor of the Cubs here. I'll lean to the Cubs slightly here. You could also make the argument for an over in this game, though, given that both starting pitchers really don't have great matchup numbers. But Ray, his matchup numbers look a little bit better to me in this matchup. But then again, you do still have to take into account current form, though. Cubs are getting the money. They're around minus 130 here, which is a reasonable price, I think, to lay with the Cubs. 70% of tickets, 79% of the cash, on the Cubs. The total's 8.5, 9, which is indicating that maybe there is like a light wind blowing out here in Wrigley because it's a bit of a higher total. Probably higher than it would be if there wasn't wind. Over makes some sense here, given that you have at least one questionable bullpen. Some questions with both starters, but they are both in the better of their home road splits. I don't know. I think I'd probably prefer Cubs money line over that in that game, but not anything that I would really want at all. Pittsburgh at Houston. Houston took the loss yesterday 10-6. I guess Mike Burrows did not fare well. Again, he was bid a farewell. No, I don't know. He did not do well against his former team yesterday, it looks like. I haven't looked at the box score, though. Houston, they used 4 relief pitchers yesterday. Pittsburgh, they used 3, Pittsburgh is the 16th ranked bullpen, although the ERA isn't too bad, but they're a mediocre bullpen. Houston is 26th, and they have the worst ERA still. Houston's a bad bullpen, even though they have improved a little bit. I wouldn't want to trust either bullpen here, though. Both offenses have been good. Pittsburgh is now 4th, tied with Washington. Houston's 7th. So there are a lot of things that kind of line up towards overs in the series. But then you look at the starting pitching matchup, and I don't think I would want to go over here. Paul Skeens is pitching for the Pirates here. 2.89 ERA, 0.86 whip. Yeah, he's a Cy Young contender. We know he is a little bit more questionable on the road, though. 3.51 road ERA, so he's not as good on the road as he is at home. He's been really good, though, throughout the course of the season. He struggled a little bit in a couple of starts over the past month, but his overall numbers are pretty much what you would expect. Very low hit rate, low walk rate, high strikeout rate. He's not as dominant as he looked for most of the season last year, but I think he might still get it going. He's had a couple of rough outings in here, but he's been pretty dominant otherwise. And his numbers against Houston are pretty dominant. In 31 at-bats, 7 strikeouts, 3 walks, 0.97 average allowed, 4.02 OPS. So he's done well against Houston when he's faced them. Spencer Arrighetti is pitching for the Astros. He's got good numbers, 1.34 ERA, 1.13 whip. He's been really good at home, 0.89 ERA. He's pitched really well over the, I'm going to dial it back a little bit on that, but he hasn't allowed many runs at all over the month of May. In fact, over the course of the entire season, he's allowed 2 or fewer earned runs in every outing. He's allowed 1 or fewer in all but one outing, which was at Cleveland earlier in the year. Houston has won all but one of his starts, which was on the road against Cincinnati, and some unearned runs came home in that start. He's been virtually unhittable, allowing a very low amount of hits. His strikeout rate is okay, although not even at 1 per inning, so you'd expect his strikeouts to maybe be a little bit higher than that. But his walks are a huge problem. He's walking more than one guy every 2 innings, and he's just kind of getting away with it right now. I know his whip is really good because he's been so unhittable, but there are guys like this that are talented pitchers. I just don't like seeing it, though. I want that walk rate to be lower than it is. You know what I mean? Even if your hit rate is low. The walks really concern me, especially when I see in May 22 to 19 strikeout walk ratio. 22 to 17, excuse me. What the hell is that? 3+ walks in all but one of those starts and all but 2 on the season, which happened to be one against the Yankees. But one of the ones where he didn't was against the Yankees. Yeah, ridiculous. I don't like the walk number that I'm seeing here, man. His numbers against Pittsburgh are not great, although they only have 4 hitters who've ever seen him, 11 at-bats. But they have had some success against him. 273 average, 909 OPS, 2 strikeouts, no walks. So I don't know, man. Pittsburgh seems to have a bit of an advantage here. I think Skeens is better than almost everybody. So you probably have an advantage with Skeens on the mound. I think you have the better bullpen with Pittsburgh as well. Probably the somewhat better offense, too. But, of course, you're paying the price if you want Skeens. You're looking at about minus 160 on the road with Skeens. Money is hitting Houston here. 65% of tickets, 75% of the cash on Houston. So the money is saying Houston. It's a tough game to gauge. I don't think I would really want to play Pittsburgh at that price, although I think they do have the advantage throughout the game. The money is also not even backing the under, because when I looked at this game, I was thinking a first 5 under makes some sense here because this pitching matchup looks pretty good. I wouldn't want to deal with the bullpens. I'm not as concerned with Arrighetti's matchup numbers because it's such a small sample. First 5 under makes some sense to me. The full game, the total's 8, and we have 60% of tickets, 53% of the cash on the under. So the money seems to be kind of indicating over full game. By the way, the Red Sox are getting the money now in that game where I gave out the Red Sox as a play there. So I don't know. Again, like I always say, do with all this information what you want, but I think a first 5 under makes the most sense in that Pittsburgh-Houston game. Colorado at Anaheim. This series looks like it should be a high-scoring series, and it has been pretty much. We've had both games go over the total so far. Anaheim has lost the first 2 games. They're on the verge of getting swept here. So Colorado is on the verge of a potential sweep here, which means maybe they possibly overlook Anaheim because they do play Milwaukee next. So Colorado might overlook Anaheim a little bit here. Colorado might be looking ahead to that series against Milwaukee. So I think the situation is a bit better for Anaheim here, but they have a bad bullpen, one of the worst, but they're at least rested because they only used Aldegari yesterday, so they're the bullpen setup rest-wise isn't too bad for them. But these are both pretty bad bullpens. Colorado used 3 guys out of the bullpen yesterday. I wouldn't trust either bullpen. Anaheim's ranked 29th, really bad. Colorado, not much better at 24th. Both offenses have okay rankings here. Colorado, 13th. Anaheim not as good at 20th. Anaheim hits a lot of home runs, but they don't do a whole lot else. Pitching matchup looks like it's an advantage to Anaheim to me, but both pitchers are in the better of their home road splits, though. Michael Lorenzen is pitching for Colorado. He's got really bad numbers, 7.22 ERA, 1.9 whip, but he's at least better on the road, 5.04 road ERA. He's been really struggling at Coors Field. I don't know why the Rockies went out and got him, but he's at least been a more serviceable pitcher on the road. But generally, he's got bad numbers. He struggles, man, but a lot of it is in Coors Field. He's got a low strikeout rate. Walk rate is definitely too high. He's allowed double-digit home runs, and his hit rate is ridiculously high. 89 and 57 in the third innings. That's not good. So he's very, very hittable. None of that is good, but he's in the better of his home road splits, and he actually has decent numbers against Anaheim at 78 at-bats. They've seen a lot of him because he was with Texas for a while. 231 batting average allowed, 687 OPS. I believe he was with Texas. His numbers are pretty good here against Anaheim, though, generally, except strikeout walk rate, not good, or ratio, not very good, 20-8. But Lorenzen, he pitches better on the road, and this might be a spot where he does actually do okay. Walbert Urania is pitching for the Angels. I think he has the much higher ceiling. He's a pretty talented young pitcher, dude. He's got a 2.44 ERA, but his whip is definitely too high, 1.38. He's been good at home, though, 1.61 home ERA. So we have both starters in the better of their home road splits, and Urania has only allowed more than 2 earned runs once this season. So he's not allowing many runs. He's been very difficult to hit. He's allowed fewer than 1 hit per inning. His walk rate is way too high, though. His strikeout rate is decent, almost 1 per inning. But his walk rate has got to go down, man. That's been his one major issue here is the walks. But I think he's a talented pitcher, man. He's one of those guys that I feel like I say it every day, but if he can get that under control, I think he's going to be a pretty strong pitcher. Colorado's never faced him before, so that should be a little bit of an extra advantage to him. Colorado doesn't tend to hit well on the road. So Anaheim, Urania might actually pitch well here and have a little bit of an extra edge against a team that's never faced him before, an offense that's never faced him before. The money's coming in towards Colorado, though. 54% of tickets, 68% of the cash on Colorado. It might be because of the price. Like, does Anaheim with a very unproven starter, should they really be like minus 158 here? I don't know. I think if it was around minus 120, I'd be considering Anaheim as a play here. But I think it's really all about the price. That price is a bit high, even though I kind of lean towards Anaheim in this game situation. They're trying to avoid the sweep. Their bullpen is worse, but it's a little bit more rested. You could go first 5, really, if you wanted to with Anaheim. Maybe like a minus half a run or something in the first 5 makes some sense with Anaheim here. I think a first 5 under actually makes sense in this game as well. I know it looks like an over series, but part of that is because the bullpens suck. So if you take them out of the equation, full game total is 8.5, but if you take the bullpens out of the equation, both starting pitchers look like they have a decent matchup here at least, and they're both in the better of their home road splits. So, excuse me. I think it makes a little bit of sense, first 5 under, but I'm going to skip that game, obviously. And then Dodgers at Arizona on MLB Network is the late game. These teams have split the first 2 games of the series so far. Close games for the most part. Dodgers won the game by 1 last night. The Dodgers used a bunch of relief pitchers, though. They used 5. Arizona used 3. Arizona's bullpen might set up a little bit better here. The Dodgers are ranked number 2 in bullpen. Diamondbacks number 3, although their ERA is still worse than that, but they're the more rested bullpen a little bit here. Dodgers are number 1 in offense. Arizona number 15. So could be some offense here, but looking at the starting pitching, maybe not, although the total in this game is pretty high. We're in Arizona. It's a hitter-friendly park. But somehow that means Arizona's going to have to put up runs against Shohei Ohtani, which is not going to be easy to do. He's got a .82 ERA and .82 whip. He's been basically the same home and away. He's been an excellent pitcher since they started letting him start again. He's basically been a full-time starter. He's allowed 5 total earned runs on the season. He hasn't allowed more than 1 earned run. Oh, no, he allowed more than 1 earned run once at Houston. He allowed 2 earned runs in that one. He's got an extremely low hit rate. Walk rate is fairly low as well, and the strikeout rate's fairly high. But he's been almost unhittable, though. He's been really, really good for the most part. Arizona, though, actually has good offensive numbers against him. in 21 at-bats, 286 average allowed, 756 OPS. So this is one matchup where he might not actually have an advantage. 7-3 strikeout walk ratio. It is possible against a decent offense with decent numbers against him in a decent hitting park. It's possible Arizona's able to put up some runs against him here. Zach Gallen is pitching for Arizona. He's got a 5.16 ERA, 1.47 whip. Obviously, those numbers are bad, but he is good at home, 3.09 home ERA, so he's significantly better at home. He's been all over the place, though. Just his overall numbers, he's allowed more than one hit per inning by quite a bit, which is bad. Double-digit home runs allowed this early into the season, not great. Walk rate is okay, and his strikeout rate is a lot lower than you would expect. So it looks like his stuff just kind of isn't really there. He did pitch against the Dodgers really early in the season, gave up 4 earned runs in 4 innings, first game of the season. Maybe, he was still trying to get his season underway, but maybe not a good sign, though, that he didn't pitch well against the Dodgers. That was on the road, though, and he's been really bad on the road. His numbers against the Dodgers are just not good in general, though. They have a ton of experience against him. 173 at-bats, 43-20 strikeout walk ratio, 277 average allowed, and 801 OPS. So his numbers don't look to line up that well either here. I don't believe Ohtani pitched against Arizona this season, though. Yeah, so Arizona hasn't seen Ohtani for quite a while. So I actually think an over makes the most sense in this one. You have bullpens that are a little bit unrested, even though I know they're good bullpens. But if the starting pitching kind of struggles a little bit, although it seems weird to say that about Ohtani. And I know Gallen's good at home, so I don't really want to do this. But I still think there are arguments for an over here. It's around 9, so you're right on that key number there. 9, odds makers are telling you something with that total, though. That is a high total for an Ohtani game. And the money is hitting LA, 85% of tickets, 94% of the cash on LA, but minus 200 on the price there. I would not want to do that. Yeah, no thanks on that one. But I think an over, there are some arguments for the over in that one. All right, let's go to WNBA. Who wants to talk about WNBA? Everybody wants NBA, and I'm going to talk about the series to some extent as well. I have well, you'll see. I have some trends or some angles, I guess, whatever. But I don't know, dude. Like the professional bettors are like, no, you got to call this an angle if it applies, to a wide span, like an entire league. It's a league-wide angle. A trend only applies to one team doing this. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, WNBA first. We have 2 games here. Unfortunately, my strongest WNBA opinion was correct with Vegas, although they didn't cover by that much, but they did cover. Today we have Toronto at New York. Both these games are on USA Network. First look at this. You're going to see both teams are 5-4, yet the Liberty are laying 9.5, 10 points here. So I think for the recreational bettors, if they look at this game, why would they lay 9.5 points, 10 points with a team that has the same record, right? But the odds makers are telling you New York is the significantly better team here. They have not had a good season so far, but they're finally starting to play better. At least they beat Phoenix twice at least. They're staying at home here. They do have Indiana up next. I guess it's a potential look ahead here, but it doesn't really look like a terrible spot for the Liberty here. I mean, the record isn't that good, so I think they're going to be trying to still get some wins here. Toronto is coming in off of beating Seattle, which is not a big deal. Seattle's a bad team. Toronto, 1 single game road trip here to New York before they come back home. I don't know, a little bit of a weird spot, I would say. These teams haven't played each other yet this year. There's not really a strong situational angle here. I think I would just lay the points because it just looks too easy to take the points here. And it's a high total in the 170s, so if it's a high-scoring game, it's more likely the favorite will be able to cover. So do with that information what you want. Then Phoenix and Seattle. Oh, actually, I have a play in this game, Phoenix and Seattle. We have a WNBA play here. We're going to lay the 5.5 with Phoenix here. It's kind of moving up, though, towards 6.5. So I would try to find the best number on that, get on that. You might have to lay a 6 now, unfortunately. You might be thinking, well, why would you do that? But when that's the sentiment, that's why I want to do it. Like, why is a 2-8 team, it's 1-4 on the road, laying points like this on the road against a team that has a better record, 3-7, 2-3 at home? Well, I'll tell you. Obviously, the odds makers are telling you Phoenix is the better team. Now, this is a cup game. I think both of the games today might be cup games, so I think generally the better team, kind of might be though I said it differently yesterday, because like teams that are in contention, like teams that have their eyes set on the championship might not do as well in the Cup. Although we might be able to counter that when we go talk about the NBA and the Cup and versus what we have in the finals matchup there. So yeah, sometimes you do see a team that's the lesser team be more motivated against a better team, but in this case, what I think you have here is the better team is having a really bad season. I think you're gonna see them show up here, and that is Phoenix. If you look at the scheduling here, Phoenix has had one of the most difficult schedules in the league this year. We had a win with Phoenix in the first game in final revenge against Vegas. They were able to beat Vegas, who's one of the best teams in the league, on the road by 33 points. So that's pretty good. And then they were obviously in a letdown spot after that, and they lost to a pretty good Golden State team. They had to play Minnesota twice. They played New York twice, Atlanta. So they've played a pretty difficult schedule here, dude. They haven't faced any of the bottom teams in the league so far, which are like Seattle, Connecticut, maybe Washington. They haven't faced any of those teams yet. They did face Toronto. Toronto's maybe more of a mediocre team, though. But now they get to play Seattle, which debatably is the worst team they've faced all season so far. Seattle might be the second worst team in the league to Connecticut. So this is going to be a bit of a reprieve for Phoenix. They're also coming off getting annihilated by Minnesota. They gave up 111 points in that game. So I think when something like that happens, you're going to want to bounce back, man. I mean, Minnesota was looking for revenge against them both times, because if you remember, Phoenix was the team that eliminated Minnesota from the playoffs last year when Minnesota was the 1 seed. Minnesota lost Collier, and then Phoenix upset them. Collier's not back yet, but Minnesota obviously is like out for blood against Phoenix. And Phoenix was in a bad spot, like I said, a return home spot, even though I think I leaned to Phoenix in that game still. But that did not work out that way. These return home spots are difficult. They got killed in that game. But now I think coming off of a game like that, like when you allow 111 points, that's almost always some sort of outlier. You dig into it, Minnesota shot 64% from the field in that game and 59% from three. I mean, come on. And didn't miss a free throw. Phoenix went to the free throw line way more, but they only shot 34% from the field and 37% from three. So Minnesota shot so much better. That's just a major outlier. The field goal percentage just in general, plus Minnesota's three-point percentage, there's no way Seattle's going to shoot like that in this game against Phoenix, and Phoenix should improve on their shooting as well. So I think that's all good. I'm not going to say that Minnesota shouldn't have won that game. They should have, but it was a misleading blowout score there. So I think Phoenix is in line for a better game here because usually you're embarrassed when you get blown out. Plus, again, that game was a misleading final. And now as far as Seattle, on the other hand, yeah, I know Seattle, what the hell was that? Disney wants me to log back in, I guess. I don't know. I think I'm already logged in. I don't know. Seattle, they played one of the weakest schedules this season, dude. They played Connecticut 3 times, Washington twice, Toronto twice, whereas Phoenix only played them once so far. This has been a soft schedule. I think what you have here is you have Phoenix, who's faced the most difficult schedule in the league so far, against Seattle, who's faced the easiest schedule so far. And Seattle, yeah, they did just get killed by Dallas, but they're returning home from a road trip. They went to Toronto and Dallas, and now they're returning home from all that travel. That's pretty far from Seattle. And with 1 day off, they're coming back from Dallas. It wasn't a long road trip. It was only Saturday through Monday, but still a lot of travel here. Whereas for Phoenix, I think the travel's a little bit better here because they're just going from Arizona back out on the road to Seattle. Both teams did play 2 days ago, I think. But, yeah, generally I like this. It's just one of these games where it's a misleading spread here where the odds makers are telling you the team with the ugly record, the worst record, is actually the better team and they're favored on the road. Nobody's going to want to lay points like this on the road. But like I said, I just showed you, Phoenix definitely the better team. They've had the way more difficult schedule. So we're laying the points with Phoenix in this game in the WNBA. Hopefully we get back on the winning side with WNBA after we started out 5-0. We're now 5-1. All right, let's go to the NBA. NBA, we got a lot going on here, man. Knicks at San Antonio, obviously, on ABC, game 1. Now, I'm going with Evan Abrams. at Action Network here. He's given us some a lot of angles here that we can look at here. So there's a lot going on here. So a lot of it is series-wide, but I think it's just interesting. So first he talks about how we have 2 long shots in the finals this year. And by the way, before I talk about that, what I will also mention, because I was alluding to it, is Spurs and Knicks were in the Cup final. The Knicks beat the Spurs in the Cup finale. So maybe the Cup isn't, a nothing burger. I mean, I think it's stupid. I think it shouldn't even exist. I think it's dumb. I still think there are, situations where teams are just not motivated in the Cup. Like Oklahoma City got knocked out by the Spurs. And by the way, I think that's why the Spurs lost to the Knicks. So the first time these teams played was in the Cup final. The Knicks beat the Spurs. I think I gave that out as a play on the show, by the way. That was a winner here on the show way back in the day. But the reason I did that is because the Spurs had just beaten OKC, and that was a huge win for the Spurs at the time. So I thought they were going to be gassed and not have a whole lot left against the Knicks. So that's kind of what happened in that game. But by the way, the Spurs were winning a lot of that game. The Knicks won by 11, but the Spurs were winning that Cup game in the fourth quarter. The Spurs led the majority of that game. So if you want to, I don't think that Cup game should matter that much. And Wemby, by the way, didn't even start that game. He came off the bench back when the Spurs were kind of playing around with his minutes and they were messing with his matchups and having him come off the bench, and he was just dominating bench players from the other team. But whatever. So that was a game that I don't think is that much of an indicator. But the Knicks winning by 11 in that game was misleading because it was a bad spot for the Spurs, in my opinion. And the Spurs still led that game in the fourth quarter before the Knicks went on a late, ridiculous run to win that game. So do with that information what you want, but it is interesting that the Cup final is now also the NBA Finals matchup, and last year, by the way, the Pacers won the Cup, I'm pretty sure, and they wound up in the finals. So maybe the Cup is, a predictor of something. But what's interesting here, that's interesting alone, but the other interesting things here, so Abrams here is talking about Spurs were 66-1 to win the title starting the season. They were a long shot. And no team that had odds like that prior to the season has ever won the championship. So if they win the championship, they're the biggest preseason long shot to ever do it. However, on the other side, the Knicks were 22-1 going into the playoffs to win. And if they were to win, this did be the longest pre-playoff long shot to ever win. So whichever team wins is going to break some really ridiculous historical angle for these long shots here. Like, neither team is supposed to win, pretty much. So I thought that was a little bit crazy. So do with that what you want, but I think those trends actually kind of cancel out a little bit. But it is kind of crazy. But I used that trend in my analysis in the final last year to fade the Pacers, because the Pacers were like probably 40-something to 1 going into the playoffs to win the playoffs. The Knicks, I don't think it's really that crazy that the Knicks are here, though. I don't think it's that crazy that either of these teams are here, really. Given what the playoff field looks like once it started. Like, on the East, I thought it was either going to be the Knicks or the Celtics, whichever team came out of that. In the West, yes, I did think it was going to be OKC or Denver, but, whatever. I just think all of this is interesting. Then we have, he talks about rest. The Knicks have 9 days of rest here, where the Spurs have 4. But at least for the Spurs, they played on Saturday, so there were no games scheduled on Sunday. They played on Saturday, and they're still rested here. So the Spurs, I think that's actually, I could see this going both ways. We'll start talking about game 1 while we talk about the rest here, because obviously the rest is a big issue. And you remember the Knicks were on a big amount of rest similar to this going into the Cavs series. And while, yes, they won and covered that game, it was at home, and they were losing that game to Cleveland by 22 with like 6 minutes left, dude. So I think the Knicks did suffer from a lot of rust from having too much rest. So I think that is a negative, even though you see here Abrams is pointing out that it actually isn't. The teams with 9 more days of rest against opponents that have 4 or fewer, San Antonio has 4 here. Those teams with that rest advantage, like the Knicks here, are 10-3 straight up and 10-3 against the spread. However, I think most of those teams were a favorite, though, and the Knicks are the underdog here. So I think that you can take that with a little bit of a grain of salt, especially the straight up number there, because I think most of those teams were a favorite and at home. And going back to the NBA-ABA merger, speaking of the ABA, the Spurs were an ABA team. If you've watched it reminds me of Semi-Pro, man. Very underrated movie. Jackie Moon, Will Ferrell, and Woody Harrelson in it as Monix, Eddie Monix. Anyway, good movie if you haven't seen it, by the way. It's just stupid humor. It's underrated. It makes me laugh. Anyway, going back to the ABA merger, teams in that same rest advantage spot are 24-13 straight up and 26-11 against the spread. However, again, I will point out, I think the majority of those teams were the home favorite, though. And he points out in a little while, the home favorite has a bunch of advantages in these trends here. So it's like, well, which trend do you want to take in this game? Because the rest, it seems to be an advantage based on these trends. But I keep saying that I don't think that it is. I think that if you have too much rest, like the Knicks might have here, I think it's a problem. Because like your offense can be out of rhythm, whereas the Spurs, I know the Spurs are coming up beating OKC, so it could be kind of a letdown. That was a tough 7-game series, man. Beating OKC is no joke, so the Spurs might have a little bit of a hangover effect there. So I don't want to play the side in this game either way. But, I tend to fade the team that has that extra rest because I think it develops rust. And we saw that happen with the Knicks coming into that Cavs series. It did happen. But once they got their bearings, they played well. But perhaps another reason to like the Spurs, though, is the Spurs are way more battle-tested throughout the playoffs, dude. They beat Minnesota and OKC, and both of those teams are better than all of the Knicks' opponents in the playoffs, especially on the defensive side. The Knicks beat Atlanta, Philadelphia, and the Cavs. So Minnesota and OKC are both totally different animals than those three teams. They're both way better defensively. So the Spurs have definitely faced a more difficult path to get here. And a lot of times that tends to be an advantage to that team. It's battle-tested. As long as they can get over that hangover spot, they can play better. However, you got to worry about the Spurs' youth here. So I'm handicapping the series and game one all at once here. Spurs have a ton of youth. We know that. 3 of their starters are 22 or younger, which is Wemby, Castle, and Harper. So, yeah, that might be a little bit of an issue. I know. The Spurs don't really have that experience. They didn't even make the playoffs last year. Now they're in the finals. So I keep saying I worry about this. I do worry about the experience being a disadvantage for them, the lack of experience in this series. I worry about that for sure because the Knicks have more playoff experience here. They have more experienced guys. Karl Anthony Towns was on Minnesota for a bunch of years. He's been on the Knicks for a few years. He's been in the playoffs all these years. A lot of these guys have been in the playoffs all these years. You know what I mean? So the Knicks do have an experience edge here. So that has to be taken into account here. So Evan Abrams, by the way, does point out that those teams with the rest advantage usually are at home. Since 2002, only 3 teams with that rest advantage were road teams, which were the Sixers in 2023 against Boston. I was at that game, I'm pretty sure. I believe the Celtics lost that game. And the 2017 Cavs in Boston. I was not at that game. I don't remember who won that game. And 2013 Spurs at Miami. All 3 of them actually won outright and covered the spread. So that kind of counters what I just said, where I said, well, these teams in this extra rest advantage here, they're all at home basically. But Evan Abrams is pointing out that the 3 road teams in that situation since 2002 all won the game outright. But let's think about that a little bit, though. The Celtics, I mean, that was kind of the, whatever you want to call it, the Joe Mazzulla effect, or was that Udoka back then? I forget. But the Celtics have had all these problems winning these games as big favorites at home, so I don't really put that much weight into that Sixers game there. And the Celtics blew that game at the end of the game. I was at that game. That game sucked. It was, I don't know, I think it was Tatum maybe had this. It was either Tatum or Brown had a horrible turnover at the end of that game, which was what ended the game there when they had a chance to win the game. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what happened. I think the 2017 Cavs might have been that LeBron Cavs championship season. Am I right about that? I think it probably was. So, I don't know. I think the Cavs might have had something going on there. The Celtics were an inexperienced team that year, man. So, I don't think that has that much bearing in this game either. And then I don't really remember what the situation was with the Spurs against that Miami team was one of those LeBron teams, though. And I think Miami wound up winning the championship that year. Am I right about that? I don't know. I would have to go back and look, but I don't know. I don't know how much weight to put into any of those games. And I think the first two don't matter as much. I know I'm spending a lot of time on the NBA, but it is the NBA Finals here. And in the Finals as a series, Abrams points out since 1990, teams entering game one with this type of rest have gone 4-1 straight up and against the spread. Wait, what? I thought, sorry. So all those stats that I pointed out prior to this were in second round of the playoffs or later. That's why it was that bigger of a sample size. It wasn't finals only. But then he's saying if you isolate that to just the finals, those teams since 1990 still have done well. They've gone 4-1 straight up, 3-2 against the spread in game one of the finals. But remember, I don't think any of those finals teams were an underdog. Like these teams that he was talking about here. Oh, no, one of them was. It was Spurs and Miami. That was a finals game one. So those games that he talked about were the underdog won and covered. One of those was actually in the finals. That was Spurs and Miami in 2013. Interesting. So, yeah. But even so, yeah, the other two games were in the first round of the playoffs, I think. Or one of the earlier round. Or no, he said that they weren't. They were second round or later. Whatever. They might have been second round then. All right. He then goes on to say the only loss of those teams in game one, the only straight-up loss of a team with that rest advantage was the 2001 Lakers, who lost by Philadelphia, even though they were a massive favorite. The Lakers, they still wound up winning that series, though. I'm pretty sure I remember that. That was Lakers with, like, Kobe, I think Shaq maybe, whatever. And then that was before the season where those guys hated each other and whatever, and they got upset in whatever finals that was. That was Philadelphia with Allen Iverson, I'm pretty sure. I'm old, man. I vaguely remember that, but I was rooting against the Lakers, obviously. So I was not happy. Does it translate to a championship? He says since the merger, 8 teams have entered game one of the finals with that advantage. 5 of the 8 won the title, which were the 2023 Nuggets. But, of course, the Nuggets, that was against the Heat after the Heat upset the Celtics. The Nuggets were clearly just a way better team that year. It was just a complete mismatch, so I don't know how much weight to put into that. The 2001 Lakers, I just mentioned that the Lakers won that series. 96 Bulls, which was, one of those Michael Jordan teams. 82 Lakers and 78 Bullets. The teams that lost the finals despite having that rest edge were the 2013 Spurs. Like I said, they lost 2013 to the Heat. That was against that LeBron Heat team, though. The 98 Jazz, who lost to a Michael Jordan Bulls team. So those two teams lost to these elite dynasty teams, man. So this does make it seem like the team with the rest edge does have a huge advantage in the series, because the teams that lost with that rest edge, they lost to like an elite team, and then the 89 Lakers lost to, who did they lose to? That was, I don't even remember who that was that they would have lost to that year. I'd have to go back and look. San Antonio finds itself on the opposite of another trend. I know, I apologize I'm taking this long, but hopefully you guys are interested. This is a bunch of interesting stuff here. Thanks to Evan Abrams for all this. Spurs are just the third team since the merger to win Game 7 of the conference finals on the road and then be a favorite in Game 1 of the playoffs. The last two teams that fit that profile were the 2018 Warriors, which that was against Cleveland, I'm pretty sure, was it not? And the 2002 Lakers. Both won Game 1 and eventually won the championship. And both failed to cover Game 1. But I think if the Spurs are going to win Game 1, it's highly unlikely they're not going to cover, though, because the spread is lower. So, the Warriors wound up winning the championship in 2018. Yeah, I forget who that was against. And then the 2002 Lakers still won the championship as well. So that's a positive trend for the Spurs, where teams that have won Game 7 on the road You probably I would assume they were both underdogs, but maybe not, or they were all underdogs. But then be favored in game one. That's been good for those teams. So those teams have won game one and won the championship. So that's good for San Antonio. The underdog in game one has been bad historically. Like I said, although the Pacers won as a huge underdog last year. You remember that set up a nice play for us in game two. I think we had 3 plays in that series on the Thunder. It was basically, I made a bet on the series too after the Thunder were down 2-1 in that series. I bet the Thunder at a smaller favorite price. That was all good. We had a really good NBA Finals last year, man. I think we won 3 bets on the Thunder during the Finals too, just playing them after every loss that they had. We just played them, and they won every time. Anyway, game one, the road team has done badly usually, even though the Pacers won. And I believe if it happens again, as he says right here, back-to-back consecutive underdogs in game one have not won since 2001 Sixers and 2002 Nets did it. So I don't really put much weight into that, though. I mean, these are 2 different years, 2 different teams, whatever. A dog has not won outright in game one in consecutive years at all. Wait, what? Underdogs haven't covered. Sorry, that was covering the spread. And winning straight up has not happened since the merger. So that is a bit of history against the Knicks here. But I think the trend that matters more is game one NBA Finals underdogs are 3-18 straight up in game one, 4-17 against the spread since 2005. 5-25 straight up, and 9-21 against the spread since 96. So home favorites in game one of the finals have been very good historically. So there, again, I told you there are trends that are going both ways here, which makes this game very difficult. So I think, as you know, I'm not going to have a play on this game. We're going to hold off, and we're going to wait and then see what happens in game one and maybe look for zigzag opportunities and whatever. Underdogs in game one who are on 6+ days rest since the end of the conference finals are 1-10 straight up in ATS dating back to 2005, 2006. One outright winner was the Spurs over the Heat in 2013 as a 5-point dog. So that's also really bad for the Knicks, and that plays into me saying that it's rust, right? So that does say that, right? Underdogs, if you're an underdog with too much rest, that's what this says here, going into game one of the finals, those teams are 1-10 straight up and against the spread, with the only covering and winning team being the Spurs in that 2013 game. So that's crazy, dude. So that's another indicator towards the Spurs. And then he talks about the Spurs being an extreme long shot here, but now they're actually favored to win the series because they are the home favorite in the series at -210. Correct, yeah. So they would be tied for the longest odds. Actually, they're currently tied for the longest odds to ever make the finals, and they'd break the record for a title winner. So that's crazy. But again, if the Knicks do it, I think they'd break the record for the pre-playoff odds to win. No team with longer than 28-1 odds have ever won, which was the 2015 Warriors. The Mavs in 2011 when they beat the LeBron Heat. While I was stroked out and in the hospital, I was rooting against the Heat, though. I was rooting for Dirk. Rooted for the Mavs back then, even though they're a Miriam Adelson team, which we don't like. But yeah, the Mavs went on to win that year as 20-1 preseason favorites. They're 20-1 preseason long shot, I should say, to win the championship. Interesting. Of the previous 11 teams to reach the finals that were 20-1 or worse entering the season, only 3 were favorites. 2015 Warriors, 2021 Suns, and 2008 Lakers, and only Golden State won out of those 3 teams. So it's a small sample size, so I don't know how much weight to put into that. The 2021 Suns, who did they lose to? That was a weird COVID-affected year. I don't even remember who won that year. But yeah, that might have been a little bit of that series. I don't even know. And then the Knicks are on this crazy run. They've won 11 games in a row. They're on one of the most crazy stretches ever. They've outscored their opponents by 262 total points over that, which is 19 points better than any 11-game stretch ever, which was the Celtics in 2024, their championship season, during the latter part of the regular season, the Celtics did that. No team has done that in the playoffs ever, which the Knicks are doing that right now. But remember, the Knicks are doing it against the Hawks, the Sixers, the Cavs. Those are not good defensive teams, man. And they caught the Cavs after 2 straight 7-game series, so the Knicks are catching... and they caught the Sixers off of a huge upset of the Celtics in a 7-game series. So the Knicks caught teams in good spots. Although the Spurs are off of a big upset win over the Thunder, although that was a more competitive series, though. Among teams that have, outscored their opponents by 200 points over an 11-game span, the Knicks, this is just pointing out that they've had a ridiculous field goal percentage, 53.3%. But come on, man. Like I said, they were facing really bad defenses throughout the Eastern Conference. They're not going to shoot this well this entire series against the Spurs. You know what I mean? The Spurs are way too good of a defense to allow that. So I don't think the Knicks are going to continue shooting like this against a defense like the Spurs. Knicks have had a great offensive rating. Yeah, blah, 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 whatever. So, they're setting a bunch of playoff records. But that might mean that the Knicks might wind up being a little bit public because the public loves these teams that are explosive offensively. I don't even think the Knicks are really that explosive offensively. Like, they're typically more of a slow-down defensive team. So it's really, really weird that this is happening. Both of these teams are more defensive than offensive. Very weird. And then the 2017 Warriors did something somewhat similar, but still not even really that close. But whatever. I don't really care about that stuff that much. And then, yes, he's pointing out the NBA long shots that made the finals. All of those teams listed in this grid lost in the finals. Pacers came the closest, getting to 7 games last year. But the NBA might be changing, man. Maybe there's more parity in the NBA now, which is why we see these long shots happening. Then we have the finals favorite here. Spurs are around minus 200, something to win. This has been good historically. Out of the previous 32 teams that have been favored by this amount to win the series, they've gone 29-3 in the finals. So that's a good indicator for the Spurs that being favored of around minus 200 or better in the finals results in a win to that extent. That's pretty crazy. So those teams win at a higher rate than the odds makers give them. The only underdogs that pulled the upset were the Pistons against the Lakers. That was the one I was thinking of, where that was that series where the Lakers had this ridiculous lineup, and it was Kobe, Shaq, whatever, but if you remember, they hated each other at that point, so the team had zero chemistry. That was a crazy year, man. Then the Cavs did it in 2016 over the Warriors, which I think was that the LeBron year then? That might have been the LeBron year that I was thinking of then. And then the Raptors did it over the Warriors. So the Warriors were victim of that twice. Very interesting, I guess. The market not nearly lopsided. The Knicks and Spurs, right, they played in the finals in 99, which was the Spurs with a very young Tim Duncan at the time. And the Spurs were minus 900, and they won the series in 5. But they were a much heavier favorite there. Now, the Spurs being plus 200 in the series against OKC. Now they're a minus 200 favorite in the finals. That's almost unheard of. Only one team that has been an underdog in the conference finals has then been favored in the finals. That was the 2012 Thunder, and they had upset San Antonio, but then they lost to Miami in the finals. But that was against the LeBron super team, LeBron and Bosh and Wade. So I wouldn't really blame, I wouldn't really blame, what was I talking about? I wouldn't really blame that Thunder team for losing that series. Plus, that was a Thunder team, I forget, was that one of those Durant teams? I can't really remember, but I don't know. I think they had some chemistry issues there, whatever. Then they talk about some of the MVP odds. Wemby is the heavy favorite, or not heavy favorite, but a minus 190 favorite to win the MVP, finals MVP. This talks about the the New York teams being on a huge championship drought. Mike Brown's playoff coaching. He's actually been decent in the playoffs. He has actually been good in the playoffs, which is interesting. 53 different head coaches have coached that many playoff games. with Mike Brown's win percentage is second best only to Larry Bird, who told me to F off while he was coaching. That was when he was coaching Indiana, but he had a smaller sample size there. I really don't think Brown is that good of a coach, though, man. I don't. But, whatever. He's an experienced coach, at least. But he's 0-6 straight up on the road in Game 1 as a head coach, though, in the playoffs, apparently. So Brown has not been good in Game 1 straight up. Although he's good at covering the spread to open a series, but he loses all those games outright. So that means he's usually a big underdog, though. Yeah, I don't know what else to talk about here, but let me see. Is there anything else here that's interesting? Oh, yeah, and then the Knicks are only the fourth team since 1990 to be a favorite in every series in the playoffs, but then be an underdog in the finals. Those other teams were the 2016 Cavs, 2012 Heat, which were, again, that was that LeBron Heat team. It kind of seems like they shouldn't have even been an underdog in the finals, though, the Heat that year. They must have been the road team or something. I don't know. So I don't know about that one. And then the 2008 Celtics, all three of those teams won the championship. So the Knicks have that's a good historical trend for them there, that all three teams that were a favorite in all three series leading into the finals wound up winning the championship and they were an underdog in the finals as well, is what I mean. All three of those teams in that situation won the finals. And yes, obviously I remember the Celtics doing it against the Lakers. But it was not easy, man. It was definitely not easy. And again, beating the 2012 Heat, like it would have been really difficult to beat that 2012 Heat team. So whatever. One final oddity favors New York. The Knicks enter Game 1 with at least 8 days of rest and an active win streak of 8 games or longer, but are underdogs. That applies to 3 teams ever since the merger: 03 Nets, 89 Lakers, 82 Lakers. And then it says the Spurs in 2003, though. Oh, that was the Nets against the Spurs. Okay, I gotcha. What am I... Well, what does it say? It says, yeah, inactive with blah, blah, blah. Yeah, 3 teams... It says it favors New York, so I'm guessing that all those teams must have won. He doesn't actually explicitly say that. So, yeah, New Jersey entered that game rested and still hot, but I kind of want to counter that a little bit because and they were a sizable underdog. So I don't know what he's saying here. If maybe those teams just covered. Did all 3 of them win Game 1 outright? I don't even know, man. But whatever. He's saying that trend favors the Knicks here. But again, I tend to disagree with that. I think having extra rest, and he did point out that extra rest as an underdog actually is kind of a negative here. So I tend to think that having extra rest is actually a bad thing, and I think it disrupts your momentum. I don't think you want to have extra rest when you're on this huge win streak. I really don't. And especially having to go to kind of an unfamiliar environment here. I don't like that. Plus the fact that the Spurs have faced more of a gauntlet here. And I guess you could kind of make the argument the Spurs kind of have some experience now because they're getting it as they go. Like, they just beat the Thunder, the returning champs. So to me, it seems like the Spurs, despite their youth, they're just not going to be intimidated by anybody. And now we can look at the season series because I always do that really briefly. This doesn't have the Cup game in there, but I did tell you when was that? I think it was earlier in December. It might have been on Christmas even or somewhere around there. The Knicks won the Cup against San Antonio, but I told you, even though the Knicks won by double digits, the Spurs actually had the upper hand for most of that game. We still got to win with the Knicks on the show in that game because the Spurs, I faded the Spurs coming up beating the Thunder. But it was not an easy win for the Knicks. And Wemby, like I said, didn't even start the game. So that game, I think you can kind of throw that out a little bit or kind of argue it was a misleading win for the Knicks. Then we had 2 other games here where, yeah, it is a little bit concerning that the game in San Antonio, the one game that the Spurs won, they only won the game by 2. But if you dig into this game, San Antonio, there were some weird things going on in this game. The Knicks hit 22 three-pointers in this game and shot 42% from 3, so they were plus 24 from three-point range, and yet still lost the game. So that's kind of an indicator. That's not a good indicator for the Knicks. That's kind of an indicator that the Spurs should have won that game more easily. Although the Knicks did have more field goal attempts in the game, the Spurs went to the line a ton in that game, but the Spurs were kind of dominant in the paint in that game. That can kind of tell you that. They went to the line a lot. They had a lot of rebounds. And the Knicks did lead for a lot of this game, and the Spurs overcame a deficit and wound up winning that game because the Knicks actually had a lead of 19 points in the game and blew it. They were winning the game earlier in the game and had a bad second half. But this does tell you that the Knicks just kind of had an outlier three-point percentage here. That was kind of the biggest outlier there. Not a good sign that they won that game or that they lost the game despite having a huge three-point edge. But the game in New York, we know that the Knicks played a lot better at home. They beat San Antonio by 20. Is that 25? Am I doing that math right? They beat them by a lot at home. The Knicks had the lead throughout this game. Both teams weren't really good at the free throw line here, but again, the Knicks hit a lot of threes. They had, again, 8 more threes. So in both of these games, the Knicks were plus 24 from three-point range. Like, I know the Knicks are better at shooting threes than the Spurs are, but do you really think they're going to have a plus 24 three-point edge again? I mean, that's just such an outlier, and I know they did that twice, but teams usually don't do that in the NBA regardless of, whether or not a team takes more threes or not. Having that much of an edge from three-point range is pretty ridiculous. The Knicks did have way more field goal attempts in this game, though, but some of that was because San Antonio was extremely sloppy, and they had 22 turnovers. And yes, the Knicks did win the rebound battle in this game. So the Knicks, they definitely should have won this game, but it probably wasn't the blowout that it looked like on the scoreboard. So I think both regular season, actually all 3 times that they met actually kind of look worse for the Spurs than they actually were. So I will say that. The fact that the Knicks are 2-1 against the Spurs is a little bit misleading. But yeah, the Spurs, they could clean up the turnovers. And again, we do have the Spurs at home here, and the Spurs have been excellent at home, 32-8. Knicks have not been that good on the road, 22-19. So I think all that being said, I am going to lean slightly to the Spurs in game 1 here, and I think the money is actually agreeing with that. 67% of tickets, 84% of the cash on the Spurs. They're laying 4.5 here. I think I agree. I think I would lean towards laying it. And then the money is somewhat indicating towards the under, even though the total's around 218.5. But I kind of agree with the under as well. 58% of tickets, 55% of the cash on the over. I would kind of throw those regular season games out. This total is actually kind of high for a playoff game, game 1. Usually game 1, both teams have a little bit of rest here. A lot of times the teams will kind of start a little bit more slowly, try to feel each other out. So an under kind of makes sense to me, or under first half makes sense to me, especially with the Knicks. They might come into this game rusty offensively. Both teams on some rest here might have that momentum a little bit disrupted. Plus, you get 2 good defenses here. These teams are both better on defense than offense. So it seems like kind of an under-ish type of game. And it might be an under-ish, kind of series in a way, because that's just kind of what these teams tend to focus more on. And like I said, the Knicks tend to play a slower paced game. And I think San Antonio is actually going to play that way as well. So I think both the style of play, I think, is going to be more slow for both these teams as well. Maybe San Antonio will actually try to speed New York up, though. They might try to do that knowing that the Knicks kind of want to go slower. Maybe San Antonio will try to throw them off by trying to speed up the game. I don't know. But yeah, I think, generally, even though we just saw numbers that are kind of against it, I think it does still hurt the underdog. But generally, I think that having that type of momentum, 11 wins in a row, and then having to have 9 days off, I don't consider that to be a positive. I think it's a negative. I think the Knicks will show up rusty. I think if you want to play Spurs first half, that probably makes sense too, although you might be paying about the same price that you are on the full game on that, though. So lean to the Spurs for me. Yeah, I know the Spurs. I don't really want to do it because the Spurs are coming off a huge series where they beat OKC, but maybe they won't be that hungover from that because they do have 3 days off to rest, which is still a pretty decent amount of rest. That's a better amount of rest. It's more like that's just, that helps you momentum-wise a little bit more. Than having too many days off to disrupt your momentum, like I think is the case with the Knicks. I think San Antonio might just be the right amount of rested. They're in the Goldilocks zone for the amount of rest. You know what I mean? That's possible with San Antonio here. But I do worry about their youth and lack of experience for sure. But once you've beaten the Thunder, it's like you don't have anything else to do. But then again, that worries me too, because when it's that type of situation where everybody's basically like, whoever wins Thunder Spurs, that's the de facto champion. You know what I mean? They're going to win the championship. I worry about that, and I sometimes tend to want to fade that team. In this case, though, I don't know if I do, because I want to see what happens as the series begins, because the Knicks have not really been that battle-tested during the playoffs, by the opponents that they face. So let's see what happens. Slight lean for me to San Antonio. I think if I was going to play the game, that's probably what I would do, is lay it with San Antonio. But I'm not going to get involved in game one. That's going to do it. Long show, but not as long as yesterday. 3 plays. We have a split bet on the Red Sox, partially on the run line, partially on the money line. If you wanted to go just money line, I would not really stop you. Of course, I can't stop you. But yes. San Francisco Giants, first 5 money line. We'll ride Logan Webb in that game against a Milwaukee bullpen type of game. And we're going to lay the points in the WNBA with Phoenix. Get back to the WNBA. That's going to do it. Learn to Toad on Twitter. Learn to Toad on Instagram. Like, subscribe to the channel here. Let's get it going, baby. Let's get back on the winning track here. Listen on audio, Apple, Spotify, Spreaker. Covered in Uke, my ukulele cover channel. Check that out. Patreon.com/LearnToToad. You can get some bonus stuff there. And Losercast, we had a new episode last night with Hindian being the guest last night. As Eldon, one of our hosts, is off on a boat now as a fisherman. And Tyler Yonke was nowhere to be found. But go check that out. It was a fun episode. I think it was funny. And the Giants G-Spot podcast, as I keep mentioning it will be back at some point. That's going to do it. Peace.
But don't you go quiet, don't you fade from the floor. Your name still means something to somebody for sure. Put the glass down, baby. Look at me now.